2. There we go. Oh, that was weird. Hello, everyone. Happy Independence Day with liberty and justice for all. Welcome aboard. It is your host and founder of this wild American ride, Demetrius Villa, reporting here from the Railroad City, Circle City, Indianapolis, Indiana, the crossroads of America. Talking about 245 years that this country has been here, and it has been a ride. Hello, everyone. Hello. Hey, bro, Darius, how you doing? Those of you who don't know, Darius is my brother down back in Miami, Florida, where I was born and raised. Hello, Perich. Hello from Stockholm, Sweden, Caraminalo. Chicago Railroad fans, hello, amigos. Jeanette Sanchez, welcome aboard. Douglas Des. Hello, everyone. Hello, Adam. Yes, happy 4th of July. We are here for a special 4th of July special. Talking about America and its role in the world in transportation, as well as about what we're going to look forward to. So we have a whole lot of articles over here, and also talking about some of the the news that has come out this week, as well as talking about what we also came out with, because there was something that I left there in the last video I came out with on Texas Central finally winning against the NIMBYs, as well as with China, okay? And this is a point of contention that we need to bring up over and over again about China, okay? Because we're kind of comparing two different nations with two different people with two different histories, okay? So we'll go into that later, because it needs to be said here in this country. It needs to be a wake-up call for this country, because it's not going to just hurt us, it's hurting everybody else. All right, so let's get down to business over here. Yep. North Miami Beach. And we're gonna talk a little bit about Miami, because I know some people were asking me about the Champlain Towers that fell down in Surfside. And that's pretty close to home for where I used to be. So yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about that. But first, let's talk about what happened with this meeting that the U.S. High-Speed Rail Association was part of. The Bright Line was in from the American Public Transportation Association. All right. So for those of you who did not know, there was a meeting this week on Wednesday around 12 about high-speed rail advocates coming together and saying, what can we do for high-speed rail here in the United States, and what can we do to make it work, and what can we look forward to? All right, let me fix the camera over here. Okay. So not to worry. So during this meeting, we had a whole lot to talk about. The opportunity that we have now with President Biden in order to build high-speed rail. Great. The only problem with that is that we have been trying to build high-speed rail for about the last 50 years. All right? That's why I keep telling people about this red team, blue team dichotomy. It's not going to matter, because you have some people over here thinking that, there's two extremes to it. You have one extreme that thinks Biden is going to fix everything and Orange Man bad, all of that. Then you have the other side, which you saw if, some people were saying that, I was streaming during the exact same time that former President Trump was going ahead and doing his rally in Ohio. Okay, and there's still people wearing, MAGA shirts and thinking that he's going to come back in August, or that Q is still a real thing. These are two sides of the spectrum that we need to get off of, because it's not going to fix the situations and the problems that we have over here, particularly with infrastructure. All right, so let's get on with this. So a lot of people were on there. Something that CEO Paul Skoltelis said online that wasn't said in this article over here. Again, all the articles are in the description below. We've put them on an archive page. I made sure to get all the articles for today, if we cover everything today, in the description below. So make sure you check that out. So that there's a current intense focus on infrastructure, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to establish long-term support for all modes of public transportation, including intercity high-speed rail. Of course, it's not all just about high-speed rail. There's also, regular modes of passenger rail transportation or slower modes. There's also streetcars, intercity rail, intracity rail, metro systems. That all comes together, okay? And I keep saying this because when I went to Tokyo, several years ago, which is, it's coming up on several years ago. I went there in 2017. It's basically impossible to get there now, and they're not allowing any foreigners for the Olympics, which is good on them. They should do what they need to do in order to keep their country safe and their nation safe, right? That's what you have a nation and people for. So they're in their right to go ahead and do that. But what I saw over there was something unlike any other city that I've ever witnessed here in the United States, was that you had a working system that corresponded with everything around it, and it worked. You didn't have to think about it twice. You could just go on it, and it works, okay? And that's the thing. A lot of people say, oh, it's too complicated. You're not going to get lost on that. And if you get lost, you go back the other way, and you keep going. So it's not that big of a deal to build out a large system. Now, of course, there's pros and cons to it. A lot of it that, Tokyo is a massive city. It's the largest city in the world and the most dense. So, and we have cities that are similar, in scope to our scale, like New York, like Boston, like Chicago, like Los Angeles, that it can work in this sort of scale. A smaller scale relative to our country. We gotta make sure, guys, that we're not gonna just go ahead and copy and paste everything into the United States and think it's gonna work. But what I was talking about, Paul Skoltelis, the CEO of American Public Transportation Association, was that it's now coming out of the realm of the political realm, and it's now coming to the public. Now, this article didn't come out and mention that as much, but it needs to be said that bringing it out to the public and making people aware of the choices that we have and the options to fix our public transportation system. Not just, when we talk about public transportation system, we're not talking about the city buses. Because that's what everybody thinks public transportation here in this country. That's the image that comes in your mind, is the city buses. And that's not what we want to bring. Now, you need city buses in some places, but it doesn't mean that we're going to keep people on the buses. And buses get a bad rap in this country for many reasons. Many of them warranted, many of them unwarranted. All right. Please excuse if you hear any, booms and bangs in the background. I'm not in the war zone yet. Or it's, people are, shooting off fireworks. It's the 4th of July, and over here in Indy, we have one of the loosest fireworks codes in probably one of the countries. Throughout the country. So everybody's been blowing off fireworks for the last month or so. So it's just increased. So no big deal. At this point, we'll just be like, meh. The dogs have not enjoyed it. So if you hear barking, that's them. So that's what we need to do, is bringing high-speed rail, bringing public transportation, bringing rail transportation to a public front, which is what we do. The thing I don't like about some of these groups is that there was a repetition of our congressional partners listening. In this whole chat. This was the chat that American Public Transportation Association put out. It was always about, we want our congressional partners to listen to, we want our congressional partners. And I am fully on the camp that the federal government at this point in time is not going to get much done. So in terms of having a full-scale high-speed rail system that is a nationalized high-speed rail system. That's not going to happen. If you differ, I encourage you to come onto the Discord channel on discord.gg/2JEP54JQQH. You can see over here. Yeah, I got it right. Okay. Over here is the link. Also down below is the link. And while you're there, make sure to give this a thumbs up. And make sure you're subscribed. And ring that bell so you can be on board when the next train arrives in the station. So if you disagree with me, let me know. If you agree with me, then perfectly fine. So that's why we're a club, because we want people to talk about it. We're not going to just go over here and and circle jerk. Not to mean anything is wrong with anybody else, but that's what some of these can turn into. So that's why we need to bring this to the public in order to inform them, which is why we do these videos. Why we do these live streams, in order to make sure that everybody has the chance to be a part of this. because it needs to be us. You cannot just go ahead and vote, and voting is going to change everything. It's kind of disgusting to bring like the Coomer meme, but the Vooter meme is also very real. That some people think that they can vote and all the problems disappear, and Superman is going to save them. Okay, it's up to you. It's up to you, people. This country was made on the backs of people who sacrificed for themselves and sacrificed for their community in order to make a better tomorrow. Okay? They did not just sign a paper and drop it on the ballot and wish things would get better. It's up to us to get this done. So that's part of it. So you had Florida, East Coast Industries as well, Brightline on here, talking about how the federal government can help in terms of subsidies or making it easier to acquire loans and public activity bonds, which is one way the federal government can be able to work in making this happen. That's very much true. And then you have also California High-Speed Rail, which we're going to go over a lot of California High-Speed Rail today, because there's some issues with that which we have to bring to light. Of course, we'll probably have later on a dedicated show to California, but I'm probably going to do a full video before that. I'm testing out a lot of new things with the club, and I think we're doing quite well. If you think we are, let me know, and we'll check on that. So yeah, let's see. The key this is one of the things that came to mind. The key is having a capital structure that makes the projects more palatable to private investors and takes the stress off local governments. One option would be to make private activity bonds and other credit risk premiums eligible for discretionary grants, such as the Railroad Rehabilitation and Improvement Financing Program, or the RIF program. Now, one of the things the representative from Brightline was saying was that a lot of these RIF loans or RIF bonds, they're basically very low interest loans is what they are, is that they're basically inaccessible for startup railroads, right? Because Brightline is basically a startup. A greenfield project, if you may. I would say, yeah, it kind of is a startup. Nothing like this has been done in the United States to this extent like Brightline is doing. So it is quite different than other projects, which is why these RIF programs and loans are hard to get, because they're mostly made for freight railroads or operating passenger rail systems that have been in place through either state or local governments. That's not something that Brightline can get as easily. All right. So this is what he said. By making it easier for private companies to partner with states and localities to shift the risk, you don't need to first find a dedicated revenue stream to get projects going, he said. This is where I say is going to be the future of rail in this country. By making it easier for private companies to partner with states and localities to shift the risk, you don't need to first find a dedicated revenue stream to get project going. All right? Because what is always the first thing people always say about passenger rail, or our detractors say about passenger rails? Oh, it doesn't make any money. It's a waste of money. It's a boondoggle. Meanwhile, they're going ahead and paying, out the wahoo in taxes to go ahead and pay for roads, which don't make any money at all. Unless there's very few roads in the United States that actually make money. One of them being like the Dolphin Expressway down in South Florida. But apart from that, passenger roads, especially a private highway, especially a certain private highway here in northern Indiana, doesn't get a very good rap for a lot of reasons. And again, partnering with states and localities, there's always going to be issues between P3s. But having the expertise of a private company that needs to be able to make and turn over a profit and be able to progress and make their products better, along with the government that has the duty in order to go ahead and push that, to be able to make that happen. So people can be able to have the right to be able to use public transportation or real transportation. That's what we want to do. So there's a mix and balance there between the duties and rights of citizens and of localities in order to make that happen. All right. So that's what we need to do. Let's see over here in the comments below. We have 37 viewers right now, so that's pretty good. We'll probably get more maybe later on. But let me know. Do toll roads or turnpikes make money? Some do, Adam, very few of them. A lot less than what they claim to do. It's a lot easier to go ahead and make money with a railroad because there's a lot more real estate investment that comes into there. For example, with a road, you cannot go ahead and own a building on the road unless you have your little your not toll booths, but rest stop areas. But then again, those only work in places that are highly trafficked by tourists, like in Florida. Which speaking of tourists, I got my whole American regalia on. So yeah, we got that's what we got right now. I got my American shorts, American polo. So yeah, can't be more patriotic than this right now, guys. It's all fun to do. I love this country. This country has been so good to not just me and my family and my ancestors, but for so many people. But it is true that it is being taken advantage of by a lot of people and a lot of our politicians, which is why we're quickly losing our place in the world, and why we're becoming the sick old man of the West. And I do agree with that. So let's keep continuing on over here to the next article. So let's go into what lawmakers are doing. So I was very much on board with what Biden's plan was that he had with the senators from the GOP. There was a bipartisan bill in order to help bring infrastructure over here, and it got rid of a lot of the stuff that we didn't like a lot of these subsidies for building out like half a million charging stations for electric cars, or basically giving out more Medicare and Medicaid for boomers. That stuff that doesn't belong in an infrastructure bill. That stuff belongs in its own entire bill, period. But now we're going on to a sort of a fight here between the bipartisan bill by Joe Biden, and now the Democrats in the House want a different bill to bring in more rail and passenger rail. And this is where I say the problem is going to be, okay? Because I think the Senate bill, the bipartisan Senate bill that Joe Biden proposed, is good enough that we need to pass it right now. Because that has enough that's going to be able to get done and actually make a dent for passenger rail. The more we keep talking about it, the less things are going to get done. And by the time anything gets done, well, it'll be 2022, and guess what? It's not going to be Joe Biden with probably the Democrats and Republicans. It's not going to be a Democrat majority probably in the House or Senate. That's probably not going to happen. I know I've been wrong on a whole lot of things. I did think Trump was going to win 2020, but I was completely wrong on that. For whatever reasons you want to say he lost, it's done and over with now. He ain't coming back. Don't know until 2024. At this point, I honestly think he needs to just get out of the way at this point and stop wasting time. So let's get to this. So a coalition led by U.S. Senator Christian Gillibrand and U.S. House Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who you guys know I'm not a fan of, because there's a lot of politicians that don't really have a thought that's their own in their head. Now, I do agree that AOC does agree with high-speed rail, but there were certain things in the Green New Deal that made it look a lot more like it was written by a lobbyist than it was written by someone like her. That's definitely, anybody on both sides could agree with that. So the letter signed by 74 House members and 6 senators, the lawmakers are requesting dedicated funding to develop international standard high-speed rail with high-performance connections that feed into a larger network. That's perfectly great. That's perfectly fine. We agree with that. All right? So let's keep going on. The legislators cited a report released by the Environmental Protection Agency that found transportation accounted for 28% of greenhouse gas emissions over a 28-year period. All right, well, again, I'm very green myself, and I do agree that we need high-speed rail for a number of reasons. Also many of them being environmental. So you guys can see here, by contrast, electrified high-speed rail will capture a significant portion of demand to travel between 100 and 750 miles with greater efficiency than flying or driving. Notably, the average and median distances of American long-distance travels are 744 and 391 miles, respectively. By the way, for those of you who are international audience, The reason why we keep with the imperial system is because that's what America uses. We don't really use the metric system over here except for a couple of things. But, you never know, things will change later on. So I just try to keep with the imperial system. And, for larger videos, I do actually go ahead and put in, kilometers or anything else like that. So just bear with me there. High-speed rail is been a contentious topic, mainly due to the cost needed to construct new lines. In New York, there have been discussions over the years about adding high-speed rail service in upstate New York, but no progress has been made in bringing that to fruition. I wonder why. We keep talking and talking. So they have talked about the Microsoft study that was being conducted over the construction of a 250-mile-an-hour high-speed rail line that would connect Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia in Canada, would generate an estimated $355 billion in economic benefits, a 2-to-1 return on investment, according to the report. Maybe that's a little bit more than would say, but even if it's a 2-to-1 return on investment, that's still a lot more than what roads are going to do. In fact, we've been over this again. What California would have to do if they would not do the high-speed rail project as proposed out in Prop 1A that the voters put it upon, again, a full high-speed rail route between San Francisco to Los Angeles at over 200 miles an hour, okay, with the capacity that can hold, is going to bring out and move more people than another 6-lane highway would. And they would have to spend over twice the amount of money and expand the airports in order to make that possible, okay? There's no way anybody has that money. But, of course, there were some people who would go ahead and agree and just go ahead and put out the money for that. So it makes no sense. Oh, it does make sense if you're an airline. Like we've seen before, like we saw in the last video, the oil companies are not a fan of high-speed rail. The airlines are not a fan of high-speed rail. Why? Because they know it will dig into the competition. America has lost that sense of competition. People say that this is, it's corporatism. It's definitely not corporatism. That's the complete opposite of corporatism. This is a corporatocracy. Is what's going on, where the companies are basically going ahead and making the rules of who can compete with them and who wouldn't. That's the complete difference between that. So several groups and stakeholders endorsed the letter, including California High-Speed Rail, Florida-based Brightline Trains, and the U.S. High-Speed Rail Association. Okay, so again, they're all in agreement that yes, we do need more high-speed rail. The problem that may come out later is that if the Senate passes this bill, the House was going to go ahead and take this bill and change it about, which is where we go into this article over here, which is what the House has come up with, which is called the INVEST Act. Okay. So House Democrats crafted it, House Republicans ridicule it, Rail Labor loves it, APTA likes it, AAR dismisses it, and ALSRR. There's a whole lot of other associations for rail. Notes it's merely a first step in tedious process. It's HR House Resolution 3684, the Investing in a New Vision for the Environment and Surface Transportation, otherwise known as INVEST. We just love our acronyms here in this country. So it was passed by the House. Largely partisan vote, which means it was definitely on party lines. Democrats voted for it. Republicans did not vote for it. Okay? So, going into this article, this is the thing. And I do agree with this guy on this. William C. Van Tuono, who's the editor-in-chief here at Railway Age, the guys who run this website over here. So he says this: I think most of us are smart enough to know that HR 3684 will one day wind up either A, or 1, sitting on a shelf collecting dust in the Library of Congress, 2, morphing like Jeff Goldblum and The Fly into something completely different, as in Monty Python's Flying Circus. House Democrats hail it as the greatest piece of legislation since Charlton Heston brought the Ten Commandments down from the summit of Mount Sinai on his tablet computer. That's a Ten Commandments reference, if you guys never seen that movie. House Republicans call it the My Way or the Highway Bill. How original. So this is where I also agree with. I think most of us are smart enough to know that whatever winds up getting passed will be some version of the legislation that Joe Biden, of course, here's a picture of Joe Biden with the 67 Corvette Stingray. Everybody loves that picture with him for some reason, but this is like an older picture. I wouldn't really trust Joe Biden in a car right now. I don't know if you've seen that latest video of him driving the electric F-150. They had a guy on the other side actually driving another steering wheel there. Again, when he's allowed to drive it, and if he does drive it, it's probably out on the lawn or something like that. And a bipartisan group of senators have been hammering out, and hammered they have, mostly avoiding hitting each other's fingers or their own. Quite an interesting article there. So that's where we see that bill, right? It's mostly and hopefully now you have the Senate bill and now this House bill, which is the problem that we're going to get with, and you're going to have this contention between these two bills. Worst case scenario, which is very likely, because this has happened in this country very much. Very likely, nothing will pass. And neither of these two bills will pass. Or hopefully, a version of the Senate bill with some some bit of the House bill that at least some of the Republican senators can agree on will get passed. Okay, I'm sorry to bore you guys with politics, but this is again, high-speed rail is a very political thing, and I try to keep off of personal politics as much as I can. So this could be working. Carl Manalo says we'll end up funding the projects using crypto loans, bro. Yeah, and then you'll gotta keep holding the loans then afterwards. That's not a good idea. So this was, let me see, where's that article here? Yeah, here we are. So let me see if I can bring this up so you guys can hear it. I think I got the good bits here.
The values, American Senate side, that they'll need.
All right.
Negotiations right now are really.
So this is Congressman Nellis, who's a Republican in the House of Representatives, and he's okay with, sort of less okay with the bill. Troy Nellis, Republican of Texas. And the thing is, again, a lot of the Republicans say, "Oh, it's spending too much money," or blah blah blah. Look, this country's already in debt, and it's it's not getting fixed.
And so what you're seeing now is most of the negotiations right now are really taking place in the Senate. So he had this bipartisan group of senators on the lawn the other day at the White House, and it seems like they have a deal struck. And I think there's about 11 Republican senators, and that's really the number that they'll need to get over that 60 they need to pass the Senate side. So I think that is a plan. I think that if it gets through the Senate side, I believe it will get through the House, and he'll sign this bill, and it's really going to be a win for the administration. But the American values plan is something else. That's an enormous amount of money, over $2 trillion, and that's going to be a little bit tougher nut to crack.
What will it take for you to get to yes on this infrastructure bipartisan agreement?
Well, and I voted against the $2.3 trillion original number because there was a lot of garbage in it, really had nothing to do with infrastructure.
Remember, this is exactly the same thing that we all said about the last infrastructure bill. Many of callers came on and talked about that as well, about how much other stuff that was not infrastructure that was in that last infrastructure bill.
I think we don't have to sell this infrastructure package to the American people. We present it and they will support it. But it actually has to deal with roads and bridges and asphalt and concrete and meaningful infrastructure to help the people in this country move around this great country of ours.
And rail. Don't forget rail. Even Fox News went ahead and put a picture of a railroad. Because this guy's talking about concrete and asphalt, and they put a and that's the other thing. Republicans have an obsession with just more roads. Okay, the roads are falling apart, and the codes that we have for building roads have been falling apart. Okay, falling apart like what? Like that. Okay, and that's happening all over the country. The country is falling apart. Okay. We cannot just build more roads. We need to repair the roads and that they'll be able to hold up for a longer time than they are, because this patchwork BS that we keep doing in this country doesn't work. We also need to have alternative modes of transportation so people have the choice, the opportunity, and the freedom to be able to use whatever system that they so choose. If somebody wants to keep their cars, absolutely. Keep your car and you have a road to be able to use it on. That's not going to be as crowded as it was before. If you want to use a train, perfectly fine. Now we'll be able to have the option to be able to have people to use a train. Okay? If you want to go ahead and fly, go ahead and fly. In fact, we want to go ahead to have you fly without business practices like these airlines that are overselling flights. Okay? So I've talked about this before. A lot of the business practices of American Airlines, I'm not saying American Airlines as in the company American Airlines, but I'm talking about the industry as a whole. A lot of these business practices are completely unethical. Okay? Overselling flights is probably some of the dumbest things that can be allowed in this country. Okay? You don't oversell the amount of, let's say if you have, 10 cups of lemonade, right? You don't go ahead and try to sell 15 or 12, right? You try to sell a 10, okay? But here's the thing what airlines do, okay? They'll go ahead and oversell a flight in order to make more money. And then they'll go ahead and give a voucher for somebody who's, if somebody misses the flight, because a lot of these flights are connecting flights. So a lot of these flights may be late, and they'll sell those flights in order to put up as many seats as possible, okay? Especially in the time of COVID, this is such a BS practice. I don't know how many flights that I've been on that are completely 100% packed. And then when I go somewhere that has a streetcar or bus or any sort of form of public transportation, that they have the seats, crossed out for social distancing. So they'll have alternating closed off seats. Even in the airports themselves, they have seats that are crossed off. I had this one person where I was in Fort Lauderdale, and this person was making a big deal that me and Holly were sitting together, and all she could repeat was social distancing like some sort of like robot, and she couldn't say anything else. She couldn't even explain what she was doing. So we just moved away from her and just went somewhere else. Okay, look, we're gonna be on the flights, all scrunched up together like this. You're wearing a mask, no big deal. Okay, and that's the fine. And it's starting to calm down a little bit, of course, with this variant coming out of India. They're calling it the Delta variant. Just like the last one came out of China, and the Chinese didn't want to call it the Chinese virus. Now this one's coming out of India, and now the Indians don't want it to be called India. Look, if it comes out of somewhere, it's not. The Spanish flu is still called the Spanish flu, even though it didn't even come from Spain. Okay, and I guess Spaniards are okay with it. I guess I don't know. that's the thing. All right, so a couple articles, and then we're gonna get into questions. I would like to pose whoever's on the Discord. The one thing we do want to go on is push on this is I want to hear from all of you who come on the Discord call. Where do you think America's infrastructure is going to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 25 years from now? Okay, I want to hear your thoughts, and I want to get a consensus of where everybody thinks our rail system is going to go. All right, so this is an article out of Quartz. Quartz is very good if you want, a collection of articles delivered to your mailbox. I used to, read it a lot when I was back in college, an international business honors major, doing that whole coursework. So it did bring in a lot of business-oriented articles, which is pretty good. If high-speed rail can work between Dallas and Houston, it could work in these places too. All right, and this is what I keep saying. Okay. Because high-speed rail works between, like even the Democrats have figured out, it works between certain places, okay? So we looked at U.S. metro areas with at least 2 million people between 150 and 500 miles from each other, as the crow flies, that's a saying, and at least 14 million total residents combined, okay? So that leaves us with 13 pairs of metros. There are 14 more metro pairs meeting that criteria, but with at least 10 million in combined population. Okay, so potential high-speed rail routes. Again, these are all the places that we need to build high-speed rail. Okay, let's go from east to west. The Northeast, DC to Boston. The cell already has this. Okay, the Northeast, the rest of the Northeast over here. The Midwest. Okay, the Midwest is a much-needed region for high-speed rail. Again, the thing about the Midwest is that there are so many cities that are so close to each other that, you can drive from one big city to another within an hour. When I lived down south of here in Columbus, Indiana, you're an hour away from Louisville, Kentucky. You're an hour away from Indianapolis. You're an hour away from Cincinnati. In Indianapolis, you're about 2 hours away. No more, like a 3-hour drive away to Chicago. You can get to Detroit if you don't want to live. If you want to go to Cincinnati, anywhere. So that's the thing about the Midwest that it affords to people. And then you have places like over here in Texas, Dallas, Houston. That's where Houston, Dallas is moving ahead right now with Texas Central Railway. Okay, and what we call the Texas Triangle over here. So Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Austin, down over here. And then you have over in the Southwest, okay, particularly California, okay, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sacramento. I would say San Diego too, which I don't know why I didn't put San Diego there, but okay. Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada, which is right now where Las Vegas to Los Angeles, which is where Brightline West is targeting, okay? This is why we need to do things on a regional and state level, okay? Because there are different regions here in the United States where it works, okay? You can't do it in places like, let's say, South Dakota, North Dakota, or Montana. South Dakota doesn't even have 1 million people in the state, nor does North Dakota, okay? So having a massive high-speed rail project, it's not going to work here in this country. It's not like we have 1 billion people over here, nor should we be having 1 billion people. I don't even know we'll have the amount of space nor land or resources to support 1 billion people. So whenever people like I think it was Glenn Beck that said that we need to have 1 billion people in the United States, that's ridiculous. You're talking about taking this nation and completely messing it up. We can't even support 350 million people with the infrastructure we have that's falling apart. So you want 1 billion people in this country? That's insane. We got to work in city pairs and in regional areas. That's where things are going to work. Okay? So this is funny though. These are cool facts and figures here that help put you in the story in context. People are living in cities more than any other time in history. Okay? I was still alive when more people were still living outside of cities, and it was around 2008, 2010 around that the world finally crossed that 50% mark where more people now are living in cities than living in rural areas. So it seems by 2050 they were predicting 68% of the globe will live in cities. Much of that growth happening in China, India, Nigeria, Africa. Okay, so that's where a lot of the growth is happening. Okay, so we have to find better ways to accommodate for urban populations and stuff like that. Okay, so this is what these little charts come into. Okay, all right. So that's where things are going over there. And here's an article out of the Washington Post. I do agree with. The government screwed up the American rail system. Now it can make amends. Bad regulation turned the U.S. rail system from a world leader to an also ran. We were good, and now we don't. Now Congress has another chance. So President Biden's commitment to Amtrak was well known, which is why he proposed an investment of tens of billions of dollars on passenger rail. It's not surprising. This outlay would begin undoing one of the nation's greatest mistakes. A century ago, the United States had by far the largest and best passenger rail network in the world. It was a prime driver of economic growth, resulting from a successful, if sometimes corrupt, public-private partnership that massively expanded rail miles. Okay, again, that's why I bring up about P3. There's definitely a lot of P3s, and that's why a lot of people in these comments have saying, P3s are either corrupt or P3s can be good, or etc. There's pros and cons to P3s, and this is why it needs to be closely regulated into where the government can go ahead and put in unlimited amounts of money. The problem is that with P3 is that when you inject or have that opportunity to have unlimited amounts of money, it turns into a Palpatine moment. It's unlimited power, and unlimited power can unlimitedly corrupt. Okay, so that's why there needs to be a structure into how these P3s happen. Okay, a limit is to where's the target for cost per mile. Okay, what technology are we using? What's going to happen? Okay, and that's why in countries like in Japan, these P3s and their private companies are they're not as private as you think they are either. I mean, they're private, a lot more private than most companies, and they have a lot of power too, and they use it for a lot of good. But they also have to work with the government there. And again, that's more to do with the Japanese way of life and their culture. And here in the United States, it's a lot different than what we have over here. All right, so that's where things can happen. Gramble, hello. That's what people who are against regulations and red tape have been saying since the beginning. Yeah, and that's true. When you make, and that's the thing. When you have the wrong regulations, okay, then you'll have things that happen where the governments will overtax and kill the railways, and basically become a vampire sucking out of systems that do work, and now pump all that lifeblood of our country into systems that don't work later on, like having us dependent on airlines and the roadways. Okay, it obviously hasn't worked for us. It hasn't worked. Other countries have done the quite opposite. You look at what Japan did. Okay, the men who are behind the Shinkansen, and they were called quacks for saying, well, you're bringing in trains in an era where everybody's going to the airplane and to the automobile. There's no way this is going to work. And guess what? They were right. They were right. The Shinkansen worked, actually, apart from what these naysayers say. So the visionaries behind the Shinkansen were right. The naysayers were wrong. Okay, because Japan has a much better infrastructure than we do, and now China does. And we're going to talk a lot about China later on. We'll probably go ahead and talk about China next, and then we'll go into California. For those of you who are looking for Ruben is taking a break. So he finished his studies over there in Eastern Europe, and now he's going back to Belgium. So we, hope Ruben is getting some rest, and we will see him soon. We do miss him being on board. Okay, so again, all these articles are over here, so you guys can be able to see this. Again, just quickly going through this and coming out with the big points out of these articles and what needs to be done. Okay, so if you want to look into them more or share them with people, go ahead. We have it in the paste bin below, all these articles that we're going to go over. All right, so we're gonna bring in some callers on board. And again, if you want to go ahead and come on the calls, just click on the link below, head onto our Discord server, and you can be on the call. So we have in the audience in order, we have Hello, It's Hello, David Mitchell. We'll go ahead with 2 callers first, and then we'll give it a break, and then we'll go through the next set of callers, okay? And then if you guys want to come on again, time pending, we'll go ahead and have you on later on if there's nobody else in the call. So let's bring on board, Hello, It's Hello, our friend in California.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I can't say gentleman anymore, but because Ruben's gone, but also... You are dripped out for 4th of July.
Oh, yeah, man.
Impressive.
I know, man. Hey, it's, gotta have fun sometimes, right? I mean,
I will say the Pit Vipers definitely, the Pit Vipers added a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's become a thing.
Put them on, it's fine.
Yeah, that only started as a joke. I'm like, I'm just gonna put them on for like one stream, and it'll become like a thing. Like people just wanted them on more. They're actually pretty cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're Pit Vipers.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
All right, so you said you would discuss California.
Oh yeah.
In due time, I've arrived, and actually I found something that was kind of cool while kind of jumping along the internet, and I found the California High-Speed Rail peer review of the revised 2020 business plan. And actually, I found some very positive outlooks from actually an agency that was designed or kind of put into that was created basically by people who didn't want California High-Speed Rail to succeed, basically as a way to have some legitimate backing behind them trash-talking rail. So it's kind of funny that the peer review group that was supposed to, shit-talk the agency actually ended up saying it's possible. But basically, so what they said is the authority is, let me see here. Yeah, the authority is looking to, their main priority, obviously, it goes without saying, main priority is to make sure they get a safe construction. Then the second priority, even though beyond the safety first stuff, that would be their first priority, is actually to finish the 119-mile, kind of initial
the Central Valley
construction segment that's under construction in the Central Valley now, with a single track and electrification and obviously your high-speed rolling stock. Now, I found something that basically made my day. It says that they'll be able to complete it, have substantial complete electrification and that line in 2023.
Huh.
Which surprised me. because I thought they were going to finish construction in like 2025.
Yeah, I was hearing
Yeah.
2025, 2027, and
Yeah.
2023 now. So we're we're
Yeah.
we're all we're all of a sudden that they have that in the timeline that they can be able to get that done in
Yeah.
2 years basically now.
Yeah, although here in the summary at the bottom it says despite the problems, which again goes without saying, the project is gaining momentum and the options for moving ahead are emerging more clearly. Some of the critical questions, including added federal funding, may be resolved over the next year. That's actually happened with the whole like new 900 plus $1 million that they got back
Yeah, they got
because it
back
was
that
withheld by Trump.
right.
Yeah. Reports requested by the governor should further define the governor's vision for the potential role of high-speed rail in California. I think one of the main issues actually is, I mean, besides just saying, oh, the main issue is funding in general, the main issue also is that there isn't one main funding plan that they have a strong, that like the state has a strong funding plan, largely
Right.
because, the legislature, to put it lightly, they've got their heads up their ass,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is definitely true. The main issue,
Yeah, which is
though,
funny you bring that up because
yeah.
there's this article that I have here from the Fresno Bee of and this I don't know why the California legislature did this. So I mean, there's reasons why, but they went ahead and didn't put any money there in the next budget for the high speed rail project.
Oh yeah, with the whole big state surplus, and they're like, nah, we'll just dedicate this all to other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. But another good sign that I saw was actually that give me a second, I have a parent approaching.
All right. We'll give it there a break, but while hello.
Don't worry, I'm back.
Oh,
It was
okay, you're
just
good.
mentioning when dinner will be done.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
I found that they said yes, you can do all that in the peer review, which actually I DM'd it to you. You may want to bring it up.
Perfect.
But then the actual peer review said that they will be able to finish the line, electrify the line, buy the rolling stock, the initial 8 train sets, only 2 of which they need to deliver to start testing, obviously with the money that's already been assigned to them. Now, that was excluding actually the Prop 1A funds, but including the funds that got reassigned that former President Trump withheld.
Right.
So they will be able to start testing actually on the money that they're currently sitting on, which is great. And again, they have the deadline to get a train moving, which I believe is the end of 2025.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They need to get this sooner rather than later because the increased negative press against it, it's not doing well for it.
Yeah, I kind of wanna talk about this, make it a little ranty, but I kind of want to talk about the negative press that they get.
Yeah.
I feel like in a lot of that instance, one of the main reasons that they get negative press is largely because it's only really the negative things that end up like the progress that they make. No reporter on a given day, they have to plow through 5 articles and like on a bunch of different topics. They're not going to read through an entire 100-page business plan and say, okay, here are the positive highlights. What they're going to do is they're going to have a 10-minute call with a pissed off, butthurt farmer that they're like, they want to seize my land to build a commie train. And then they put that in the news. California high-speed rail seizing land to build communist train, which,
Yeah, which is the same.
Mad.
It's the same sort of thing in Texas, except this, what's going on in Texas is a private project. But of course, they'll go ahead and say, well, it's not going to be private that much longer because then they're going to need loans, or it's going to be taken over by the state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Although I think that actually, that Quartz article that you had, you have it pulled up?
Yeah, I have it pulled up over here. Yeah, but the routes where high-speed rail could work or will work. I mean,
on that, I feel like they how they said Texas Central is moving forward and yet they kind of neglected to write down California. And I remember I saw a kind of quick little thing that said California's beleaguered high-speed rail project, and then they put a link. I wonder where that link actually goes,
I'm
and
not.
whether or not it's to a negative press article. But yeah, that's the sort of thing where
Yeah,
you
here,
have these kind of,
beleaguered. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's
these very subtle, these
California Rail
very
Authority
subtle,
faces another
yeah.
2-year delay in construction. Yeah, and this was from back in March.
Uh,
Uh, yeah,
yeah,
that's what they were
yeah.
tracking there.
This
Yeah, but this
very
was
subtle
yeah.
kind of negative talk will get into people's heads.
Yeah,
I
because this
mean, I
this
hate to have
article
to use,
this article
I hate to
was
have, yeah,
no worries. Yeah,
you talk.
I apologize. Yeah, because this article was in response to what happened in Texas. So of course they were saying, Texas is moving forward. And yeah, what you
Ah,
say is true. Because of all the negative press of California, that even people that on who would be supportive of this project, let's say like the left in California, aren't as supportive as they are because a lot of them just want their projects done in their areas, and they're seeing that the high speed rail project is taking a lot of money from them. Like this, from this Street Blogs article over here from Street Blogs California. It's an editorial. Own it, LA politicians are trying to kill California's bullet train. And that's why I keep saying that if only either they could have started a conjunction with having another rail project being done between LA and San Diego, or started there in the first place. But it's too late to do any of that.
yeah.
Far too late.
Although actually, on the topic of Streets Blog is like one of those crazy Republican places, just the exact opposite. It's not really like they're, from what I've read, it's not
Really?
really like they're pro rail. They're just anti rail. Yeah, I feel like even the stuff that they don't label as editorials are more editorial than not,
Yeah.
because they do, even like, sure, I'd love to have spiced up positive news, but that's exactly what it is. It's spiced up. To be honest, I think that for them, especially because they're like, sure, you have very crazy lunatics screaming, ah, screw rail. You have like Streets Blog over here who's saying, ah, screw people who say we should screw rail. But on the topic of just news in general for California, because this is like, from what I've been able to tell, is one of the only major benefits of it being a public project, is because Public Records Act says that they have to release everything. You can get basically every single document, like meeting minutes, you can get financial reports, it's all there.
Right.
So you can see exactly what's happening and basically do your own original reporting. So that's usually what I do, given that I haven't really found it's much help to look at the news, since again everyone spices it up.
Yeah, and that's always been a thing every time since the news, since even before
Yeah.
yellow journalism in this country, over 120 years ago. This has always been a thing in journalism, because you want people to go ahead and look at your stuff, and now even
Yeah.
more than ever, it's become so much of being an influencer of either selling a product or selling your space, and just way beyond ads even anymore. It's more of what can you sell on the sides, and look, and that's what a lot of these journalists have to do in order to do this. That's just the way that things work. If you're a full time journalist.
Yeah.
Uh,
Although, in regards to actually comparing California high-speed rail with Brightline West and saying like, oh, I will say that this is going to get a little finger pointy in regards to the fast news about Brightline West, because there are some things you got wrong. So I apologize if I make you feel like you screwed up.
no worries. So where was it
Yeah,
that I got
but
wrong on the Brightline West
yeah,
thing?
you did say that they would have 200 plus mile per hour trains. So that's not quite right, actually. The thing is that the most updated document that we have that presents this information in a non-marketing way, and in fact, really in any way, is the back when it was still like Desert Express. I mean, remember Desert Express?
Yeah,
That was
that
a
was another
while
thing.
ago.
Yeah, because I'm in
Yeah,
the middle of trying to get like a full on video on talking
yeah,
about Brightline West, like some of the older videos that we did explaining, what all aboard Florida was back when Brightline was
yeah,
that, or what Texas Central is, or what California is. So
yeah.
I'm doing one
Also,
for Brightline.
if you want to do like more California stuff, hit me up. I have a lot of research that I've
Yeah,
done.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I have a lot in the back for California,
yeah,
so I do definitely want to do that too.
yeah.
But yeah,
But in regards to the Desert Express stuff, because that's the most updated document we have, really, they list the straightaway max speed as 150 miles an hour, which, face it, it's 2021. That's slow.
yeah. No, and
Yeah,
I think from what I've heard from Brightline and from what they've said, because they have said that they were going to have like 200-mile-an-hour bullet trains when they've had people on from Brightline representatives on. So
yeah,
that's where the 200-mile-an-hour number is coming from, and also
yeah.
since they're showing off Valerio Siemens Valeros,
Yeah,
those
the Velaros.
yeah,
Yeah,
those definitely go over 200 miles an hour.
yeah.
So if they're going to do
But
fully electric, I don't see any
yeah.
reason why they wouldn't.
Although the main issue though is actually, I will say, their environmental impact statement is kind of a joke because what they have here in the in actually the route plan is they plan to have 4.5% grades. And in case you don't know what a 4.5% grade is, that's almost as like a vertical uphill for a train. So they have long, like tens of miles segments where you just have incredibly steep grades, which
Maybe they meant that in degrees. Maybe that's probably what they were.
no, that is percent. That's not degrees or per meal. That's
Four
percent.
point five
If you
percent
look at
grade.
it
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
I'll
So
have to look at that and
yeah.
see. So
But
definitely.
that concerns me because they, if by any chance they did want to go 200 miles an hour, the only places you'd really be able to are for like 10 miles just heading downhill, which you could again theoretically do. But uphill, you'd have to put the throttle in full, pray you don't have wheel slip, and then just slow down.
Yeah, of course. Traction on a train is a whole different thing when you have steel rails on
Yeah.
steel track. Yeah, but
Yeah.
definitely one
But
last.
again,
Yeah,
you could pull a Volaro and set, you could, because a lot of some Volaros do have the dual the kind of
yeah.
dual ply rubber tires, not like rubber tires around the steer wheels. They're very thin, not inflated.
Yeah. Last question before we let you go. Hello. So again, I'm posing this question to everybody in the audience. Where do you think American rail transportation infrastructure is going to be in the next 10 years?
I definitely don't see a national network. I mostly see it as like kind of like depending on where you are in the politics of your state, I see like it as sort of a some like public private where it's the state but also with various forms of agreements with private entities like maybe private rail operating groups like I don't know Keolis, which is a French group. They run a lot of public transit. They actually run quite a fair bit of stuff in France, a lot of stuff in like other parts of Europe and Asia, and actually the entirety of the Boston T commuter rail, which is kind of nice. And then I also see like fully private ventures, but I don't see a 100% private venture at all.
Okay.
Sorry, I just had another parent intrusion.
No
Uh,
worries.
but yeah, I do see that there will have to be some kind of propping up by the federal government, but obviously, if depending on the quality of the route, like and how much demand there are, like if there's intense density for a long enough, like maybe 200 plus mile corridor, I could totally see a company being able to float on minimal federal funds. But if you're doing a lower populate, let's I don't know, possibly like a Chicago to Detroit route that would have to be more federally subsidized, but it would still be operated by a private company that would be kind of operating local as in like kind of the locale of the Rust Belt and
Yeah.
the Great Lakes,
That
not
makes
local as in like, oh, just was in Chicago.
yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, thank you for coming on as always.
Awesome. Again, hit me up about California. So,
Absolutely, yeah. We'll be probably planning it out in the next, month or
yeah.
two, and see if we can where we go from there. But thank you, man. Thank you for coming on
All right.
board.
Awesome. Always a pleasure. Good
Absolutely.
night. I'm gonna go have dinner now.
Yeah, enjoy that.
All right. Thank you.
Take care, man. Take care. All right. So, next on board, we're going to have David Mitchell on, and then we're going to take a break from the calls. I'm probably going to go ahead and get a drink because I forgot to get a drink. And then from there, we'll continue on. So, let's go ahead and move to audience. There we go. And bring on David Mitchell. So, David Mitchell, you are on board.
All right, well, I sent you a couple article, man.
How you doing?
A little tired from work today.
Oh, man.
Oh boy, you remember when I brought up about we might have a couple fallen flags in the next 10 to 20 years from the class ones?
Yeah.
Union Pacific might be the next one to go.
Yeah, that could be. I do have several articles, or an article or two here about CSX refiling to acquire Pan Am Railways. So that's one thing that I have over here, and also CN and Kansas Central. So yeah, there's a lot that's going on in terms of the freight railway space, and where you're seeing a lot of this consolidation happen.
Mm-hmm. I guarantee Union Pacific might be the next to go. Like, they might be the next fallen flag.
Of all the class ones, you think Union Pacific is going to be going?
Well, they are having a lot of problems right now.
Okay.
Like they're having a lot of problems. Like, they just had a bridge burned down in California. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean stuff like that. I mean, it's not going to take down the company. It's more internal disputes, or sources of funding, which would really take that down. I wouldn't say this infrastructure that's falling apart, unless it's the whole entire UP system that's falling apart. I mean, that could very well be a case in point because of PCR and precision scheduled railroading, PSR, precision scheduled railroading, which a lot of companies now are doing, especially the class ones.
I know. And also, CXX finally got the green light to make their tunnel, the Howard Tunnel up in New Jersey, taller for double-stack intermodal.
Huh, yeah.
So, I did send you the article about that.
Yeah, I got some of that.
So,
again, I try to see if I can what I can cover, and mostly what we try to cover is mostly passenger rail, particularly high-speed passenger rail.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, but also a thing that I brought up back over a year ago, back in 2020, about rail trail and how they're a big scam.
Yeah, on rail trails. Yeah, that's one thing I have here to talk about. Since now it's the summer, I probably am going to visit several rail trails around here, because we do have an old PRR track that was converted into a rail trail, and several others like Monon and stuff like that around here. And I'm sure in every area in the United States there have been so many railroads that have been basically destroyed to become a hipster bicycle lane. That's what they turn into.
I know, and heck, most of the rail trails are not even used.
Yeah.
Some of them even ended up going abandoned,
Yeah, abandoned, or there's always a story of somebody either getting killed or, worse on the...
Killed,
yeah.
Mugged, murdered,
Yeah.
raped.
Yeah,
a lot.
there's a lot of, and again, a lot of that is mostly due to what we talked about with Hello, the last caller on, was, sometimes journalism. But it's true that when it comes to rail trails, what is it that they're going ahead and taking away from, or what is it that they're trying to do? They're trying to be a park, or they're trying to be, a running trail, right? And this is where money could be better put to parks or state parks or national parks to make those better, because a lot of those have trails in there too. I mean, I run a trail here that's in Fort Harrison Park. It's a 5-mile trail, and I run that with a weighted pack on and stuff like that. And that's a lot better than just running a trail that could be done a lot better. It's like, where could you use that trail better, that rail trail? Could you use that infrastructure, that right-of-way, for actually carrying passengers to and from a destination, which actually used to be run? That's the reason why they put that track in the first place. And there's still a lot of tracks that run between a lot of populated areas. Or can they just go ahead and have it so, some guy with a man bun, who works at Starbucks can go ahead and ride his bike every so often? No offense to anybody who has a man bun or works at Starbucks.
Mm-hmm. But my thing is, like, we have a rail trail here in Charleston called the Ashley Greenway. The Ashley Greenway used to be a rail line called the Krogan Brands. It was owned by the one who owned the A line.
Right.
Not for the East Coast. The Seaport Airline.
Yeah, Seaboard. Yeah, it's the Seaboard to the Atlantic coastline that ran up there.
Yeah, they owned the line and they ran it. Heck, they even brought in material to build the bridge into downtown Charleston by train. And the thing is that this track, way it's set, would have helped passenger train to head right to downtown Charleston. And we didn't want that capability because some idiot wanted to tear the track up and turn it into a freaking trail.
Yeah. And this is why I say to everybody, we got to be more involved in local politics, because the federal government is not going to have much power to do with this. I mean, what the federal government can do, and where it can be even worse, is that, there will be a local project for a rail trail, and then it will go up to a congressman from that area who's basically living in D.C. for 90% of their life, and then they'll go ahead and get funding, millions of dollars in funding, to push that rail trail through. So then the whole country is paying for rail trails in areas. And this has happened plenty of times before. Somebody was asking over here, should be rail and trail. And there have been some places that have done that, like in California that I was looking in for some of the research of that video. But there's mixed results with that. I mean, there's you can't be a jack of all trades and master of none when it comes to this. You have to do trains and trackage right of ways. They have to do what they need to do, okay? And cities need to do what they need to do, and parks need to do what they need to do. So that's you can't be doing that like, oh, we could mix this and a rail trail and this and that. There's a very thin line of how that can work very well, and it's not often done well in this country.
Like, literally, the government, they think, going for rail to trail is cheaper instead of trying to get rail line. But in the long one, heck, in probably in a couple of years, there will probably be like maybe a factory, maybe a business that needs rail service, and the track that was there is gone. And they have to go and do by truck, what we call more traffic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, your volume just dropped down a little bit there, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah, now I can hear you. But yeah, it's true. What's going to happen when all these urban, because a lot of these rail trails are in urbanized areas. So now what's going to happen when we run out of places to run roads, and now you have what used to be the right of way for a railroad, but it's it has bicycles here and there, and it's got one weekend where the whole town is going on a bicycle and then forgets about it for the rest of it. You need to be able to have that, and it could go to a point where you have these rail trails that may be going the opposite way of going from rail to trail and then back to rail, and that's what people have to think about, especially politicians, because what they'll do is that they'll go ahead and say, oh, we're taking this unused rail right of way and turning it into a trail, and it'll be greener for the environment, and they'll drop in these buzzwords and these key phrases that go ahead and draw the ire and support of a lot of their constituents to make it seem that they're doing something really well for the area, when in fact it's quite the opposite.
Yeah, like literally, like the track that used to go to the train depot, or not train depot, but the Union Station in downtown Trenton, with track was the last bit that used to go to the Union Station. They did turn that into a freaking trail, and the trail already abandoned, and there already crime going on it, and the crime happened where the track used to been, because the interstate, like I-95 ends in, not I-95, I-26, interstate in 26 ends right as it get into downtown Charleston. The old track go right under the interstate.
Yeah.
And they finally turned it into a bike trail when, heck, that would have been useful for Amtrak.
Yeah.
It would have been useful for Amtrak to come into downtown Charleston.
It is.
It would have helped.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I agree. It is awfully silly. No, I'm sorry. It's awfully silly. What they're doing to this. Well, infrastructure and right-of-ways that a lot of work has been put into there to research where the best right-of-ways would be for these railroads, and cities evolved around this right-of-way, and now they're taking away that. And we're the only country that really does this. I really don't think there is any other country in the world that goes ahead and takes old trackage or old right-of-ways and turn them into bike trails. And if there are some that do, they still have a robust rail system at least in place before they go ahead and do that. We're going the complete opposite direction.
Like, I know for a fact, here in Europe, like, I know in fact, because a couple friends from Europe, they said if somebody tried to propose to build a bike trail over a rail line, they'll get that deeded out. It would be no.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking.
Yeah, and Ruben has said that a couple of times, and he also agrees that it's awfully crazy what we're doing, and we're the only ones doing it. And it takes the European to go ahead and tell us to say what we're doing wrong, and and the Europeans actually right in that regard. Even though we like to make fun of the Europeans sometimes here on this show, but they're right on a lot. They're right. What we're doing is awfully silly.
Like, there are areas in Oregon that go to the Tort Railroad that they're trying to cut the railroad off from the U.S. rail system by turning the track that got screwed up back in 2007 into a rail trail. It's dumb because this town, if they connect the rail back up, they could do like a little rail system to come from the city, but the idiots are trying to turn it into a rail trail, and I'm just saying, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like,
it is awfully sad. If you have any more articles on that, David, I'd appreciate if you can send everything that you got on rail trails to me, so I can get as much research done. And of course, I'll go ahead and give a shout out to you for helping the research. I'm sorry.
You know where Eureka City, California is?
Yes, Eureka, California. Yeah, that's up in Northern California.
Yeah, there used to been track there that was abandoned back in the 90s from a very nasty flood.
Right.
And the idiots are trying to turn that into a rail trail, and there's no way that needs to happen.
Yeah, it is sad. Let me ask you one thing before you go, David. So the question that, of course, we propose asking everybody is, where do you think American passenger rail infrastructure is going to be in the next 10 years?
Oh boy, you're not going to like it, but I'm just saying this.
You're going to blackpill us now?
It's not going to be a good one, like, everything is going to be dumbed down,
So you so you think that American rail infrastructure is going to get even worse in 10 years?
It's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
All right, that's a very fair assessment, and I do think that that's where it's going to go in some places.
Because like what I said about, I guarantee, like I said it in a couple live streams ago, like I can see that there are going to be more Class 1 to be fallen flags.
Okay.
I think because our government, with the restriction they did back then, still have that ripple effect today, and it's probably going to take another 20 to 30 years before the railroads finally recover.
Right. That does make sense. So yeah, that's the other thing. We still haven't seen how badly this fallout is going to be from the precision scheduled railroading fracas that the freight railroads are pushing ahead along with, of course, the other external economic factors that are going to push in with the rampant inflation, the oil prices, the lack of semiconductors out in the world. So yeah, hey, it's affecting everything from why you're not seeing PlayStation 5s in stores to why GPUs are going up in insane prices to why companies can't even run half their systems anymore. This is an economic fall. We're going to be the ones seeing it in our decade, so we're going to be hanging in there.
Yeah, we're already probably going to have another stock market class.
Oh yeah,
it's only a matter of time before it happens.
I don't doubt it at all. Yeah, that's definitely going to happen. And of course, you have your same people saying, oh, my house prices can only go up, or my stocks are all it can do is go up. The same sort of boomer con mentality that everything's going to be perfectly fine. I'm good and nobody else isn't. And this is why I do. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but I do have to say this.
Because, sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Because of how the boomers are acting and what the people who acted before the stock market crash acted like,
Yeah.
Like,
it is.
If you go back over 100 years ago, back to the turn of the century before the First World War, and during the First World War, people like to act this way, and we have not learned from them,
Yeah, and it's sad. Unfortunately, going to have to let you go, David, since we're going to go on a little break over here, and then we're going to go into, if you stay on, we're going to talk about a little bit more about what the Chinese are doing, so the black pill doesn't end over here of where this country is going. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's going to take a lot of hurt. Believe me, it's going to take a lot of hurt. It's going to be a lot of darkness before the light comes in.
Yeah, like the building collapse was the first sign, Yeah. That building collapse in Florida was the first sign.
Yeah, and hey, that's right in backyard of where I used to live, where so many of my family still lives and friends live, and it's sad. It's like it's right next to you. I mean, it's the same thing that it's different than what happened in 9/11. Because, of course, half my family lived there in New York, so, that was a whole different thing. It was an attack on our country. This is our country falling apart. And this is due in part to people in our country letting it fall apart or willfully and maliciously, skirting through regulations and giving no regard for American life or our own people's life, or people lives in general, or life in general. There's a lot of people that don't give regard to life in general, and it's sick. So hopefully something different needs to change. It starts with us. That's the thing. It starts with us, and we have to work together. We're not in a bubble by ourselves as much as we like to claim that we're free and we're independent and whatnot. By far, America is not. The original founding of America was not that you can be free and independent and do what you want. That's very much a mentality that came up, recently, back in the 1950s and 60s and. Proceeded with the boomers. It needs to be that we need, as individuals, as good individuals, we need to work together to become a nation that makes things work. That's the lesson we have to come away with.
The boomer put it on that path for another stock market crash.
And again, it's not all their faults, and you can't blame all of them, but it's definitely something that a lot of them grew up with, and and a lot of them don't feel unrepentant for it. I've seen so many RVs that say, on the back of it, those RVs that say, "Oops, kids, we spent it all," things like that, or a lot of them gloating about how they're leaving, none of the money from retirement for their kids afterwards, and the kids have to pull it up by the bootstraps. That's not how generational wealth works. That's sick. You don't do that.
And because of the boomers, they screwed our generation up.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of things that screwed it up, but it's now up to us to fix it. We can blame all we want, but it's gonna be. Anyway, David, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it, man.
You're welcome, man. Anytime.
Absolutely. Have a good night and get some rest, man.
I will. Later, man.
Take care.
Peace.
All right, everyone. So we're gonna take 2-3 minute break. I'm gonna get something to drink, bring it over here. I suggest you guys do the same. So race in, get something alcoholic or something hard, because we're gonna go into some sobering stuff over here. So be back in just a bit. We'll be right back.
Get strong, work away, work away. They opened up a continent from sea to shining sea. A heritage they cast along and left to you and me. Roll on, America, till those berries, till those riches. Roll on, America, rail those houses by. Roll on, America, for that glory. Roll on, America, when those riches earn that glory. Roll on, America, where can sing the song of America? Roll on, America.
Roll along. That's what we've been doing, haven't we? That's what we've been doing for a lot of years. I don't claim much for my part, but gosh, when you think of all our American efforts together.
All aboard, everyone. Alrighty. We are back. And we have probably the most American drink you can get. You want to guess what it is? It's spring water from Rural King. Okay, that's not the only thing we have. I'm not drinking alcohol today because A, there's probably going to be a lot of it tomorrow, and B, later this week I do have a physical test that I'll be taking for hopefully a job that I can be able to get. So pray for me that I can get it, and hopefully that will happen. So nothing better than water. Of course, we do have to have something good over here. So we have another steak and shake milkshake, and then if that's not good enough, a key lime LaCroix, because we're gonna be talking a little bit about Florida over here. So yeah, we have to drink something over here, and I don't know what the heck they put in LaCroix, but it's probably they do taste good. Especially my favorite flavors are the key lime and coconut. You can tell I'm a Florida man because I love all the tropical flavors, but that's just me. Darius is saying over here, the Aventura station does sound very exciting, especially since I live near there. Yeah, and my family still lives right there, and I live a mile from Aventura Mall, so that's a big deal. All right, so I hope you guys are still on board with us. Okay, we had a peak of around 50 viewers, and we're down to 30 for a little bit. So I guess if you guys wanted to go ahead and take a break, no big deal. Let's see, another Black Thursday. Yeah, that could definitely be something. Caramanalo, boomers were the catalyst for that mentality. Yeah, man, this is the thing, again, I don't have to keep repeating not all this, not all that. Everybody in this audience is smart enough to have the common sense to know that. And when we say boomers, you know exactly who we're talking about, okay? It's the same thing like we say millennials. Again, you can say not all millennials are avocado toast, little whatevers. But that's the reality. Let's see what other things. Not in my bill. Yeah, that's definitely a Republican way of thinking of some things. Government destroyed American passenger rail. A. B. We have to be involved in local politics to protect rail. Yeah, we do. That's the thing. If we want to protect rail in our areas and keep the push of bringing rail in our areas to keep them happening, we have to be able to protect it here in our area. So this is from the American Prospect by Gabriel Gurley. Passenger rail is not yet dead. Capitol Hill grudgingly funds Amtrak, and now the rail operator may have to compete with private sector companies for federal dollars. Okay, so remember back in May when Congress met for that high-speed rail meeting And Amtrak seemed a little upset because now they were competing not just with Brightline, and not just with Texas Central, but now other companies, and of course you have Hyperloop and all these other things which are not going to happen or whatnot. But it's not just that. Now Amtrak has to compete for the spotlight and for funding now because of what Brightline is doing. And I don't think Amtrak is going to be able to do anything with Brightline in terms of, running services or anything like that that Brightline is going to contract out. That's not going to happen. This is just the reality, so it's going to happen. So let's talk about this. The rail haters never quit. On Wednesday, columnist George Will. For those of you who don't know who George Will is, you want to speaking of boomers. Here's another neocon, boomercon, libertarian George Will trotted out one of his familiar jeremiads against the National Railroad Passenger Corporation, better known as Amtrak. From Will's perspective, Amtrak leeches taxpayer dollars, not like the roads or airlines do that. Few people ride it. Well, I mean, if you're going to keep forcing them to either not be able to run their trains on time because the freight railroads keep disobeying the laws, or for other things, or not funding it, not as many people are going to ride it than they should be. The airlines are greener. How can anybody say this, that the airlines are greener? It gets priority over freight rails. Again, not true. And so on. Bashing Amtrak never gets old. Okay, it's not used that Amtrak, a quasi-public entity, depends on government subsidies. American train enthusiasts salivate over Western European rail, where subsidies for public transportation are higher because taxes are and people pay them, which is why Western Europeans have great train services and Americans do not. That's not entirely true that because Europe has higher taxes, that they have more high-speed rail. It's because they put a priority for high-speed rail. It all has to do about the priority, because here in America we have the most amount of funding for a lot of things. Just because we're first in funding for Americans, for children per capita in education, does not anywhere make it near that they're the smartest at all. In fact, we've been falling behind, and it's getting even worse. So that's absolutely false to say that, if we spend more money, it'll get better. We have to spend priority, and we have to do it right. That's where it comes in. Okay? So this article goes more into, what can we do for, Amtrak pushing along with this 15-year plan, and what can we be able to do in order to do this, and what sort of priorities and what sort of opportunities are out there to push for rail in this country. Okay? So let's put this up. The upshot: passenger rail at any speed remains undervalued in the USA. Few new carriers will pick off potentially lucrative city pairs, and Amtrak will try to run a somewhat reliable service on a more limited federal dollars if private carriers end up getting a cut. It's a dangerous trend since Amtrak, like the U.S. Postal Service, provides a vital service going places that private carriers wouldn't consider. Even for skeptics like George Will, who were once caught riding Amtrak by New York Times columnist Paul Krugman, it beats flying into JFK or LaGuardia or sitting in traffic on the New Jersey Turnpike. All right. Now, this is where I don't agree with this at all whatsoever. Okay? That because passenger rails are becoming more popular, that Amtrak is going to suffer for it. No, that's just the reality of what it is. And let's be honest with this. Amtrak has had 40 years to get itself up to speed. It's like when you see, people complaining about, games not being updated, certain games out there that haven't been updated for years, and all of a sudden there's a competitor out there, and now they're coming out with updates like crazy, we gotta update this, we gotta update that. That's what Amtrak is doing, okay? Now that all of a sudden that there's competition, now they're waking up and they're finding out that they're not the only guy in the room now, okay? And this is, and this whole thing, like the USPS, the U.S. Postal Service provides a vital service. There's FedEx, there's UPS, okay? And again, this is not a libertarian argument. That's just the way things go, okay? If you want to be real about this, okay, okay? You want to be able to have competition Not to an extent, because what's going on is that you're taking away from competition when you have things like the airlines, and when the airlines get too powerful, they go ahead and they run lobbyists in order to kill off competition. That's what a corporatocracy is, okay? You cannot have that. Now, of course, you can't have a billion competitors, going up in the market all of a sudden and destroying things. So there has to be a middle balance, right? And this is where we have to come in and help push for where things have to go right, okay? Because if this is a space that we know about and we're educated in, we have to be able to show where things are going. Gramble is saying, yeah, Paul Krugman is a Keynesian parasite. Yeah, anybody who still believes in Keynesian economics is a parasite. I do agree. Amtrak has competition. Show which competitor has actually running trains. There's Brightline, which will be running to Orlando. No, but that's where they're freaking out now. And it's not that it's bad for Amtrak that they're not doing anything. It's good for Amtrak because now they need to be able to to keep up with this. I went to site a few weeks ago in West. Oh, you're talking about the Brightline station. Yeah, and that's the thing. Brightline is going to just keep moving forward ahead, and they're going to get that between Las Vegas and Victorville at some point. So, yeah. And this is where we're going into, guys. Okay, so let's prepare for the sober part over here. If you guys saw the last video, China, which is a massive country about the size of the continental United States, with 1 billion people, in the last 15 years, has connected now every single province in their nation. All right? Every single province in their nation has now been connected through high-speed rail in under 15 years. Okay? So let's see where we started out then. Okay? So it's about 2008. Let's say, 2008 is when things really started to go on, right? President Barack Obama, okay, went ahead and said that we wanted to have a high-speed rail plan. Okay? You have now Chinese Premier Xi Jinping, who was instated as the premier of the CCP, went ahead and just started pushing for high-speed rail, and started with during the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Okay, later on down the line, now here we are in 2021. Okay, the United States is still trudging along. We're finally getting things started, and China's basically finished. Okay, now we talked about this rail system that they have over here in what we call the Tibet Autonomous Region. Autonomous, very lightly using the phrase autonomous. I'm not going to get into the politics of that because it's not worth it. You guys know how I feel about our red friends. But you have to give them credit because they're doing what nobody else would do for them, which is they're building their own systems through whatever way they have to do it. Okay? And now they have trains that run by themselves. They have AI trains. AI trains that are running, 2 miles above sea level, 3,000 meters above sea level. It's about more close to about 2 miles. Their own oxygen supply, and they run the AI runs the vending machines or whatever. Well, not technically, advanced AI or whatnot. It's not like they have HAL 9000 over there running everything. But this is where things are going. Okay, so let's talk about this because this is very sobering. Okay, we have to understand that it's the thing with China is it's not that we have to be like them, but it's showing us where we're falling behind, and we're terribly falling behind. Okay, because now you have even people like Elon Musk. Okay, which he makes a lot of money from China. They sell a lot of Teslas in China, not as much as now as China selling their own Chinese designed and made electric vehicles. But he has a lot of market share in there. So he went ahead and tweeted praise for China on their 100-year anniversary of the Communist Party over there, the CCP, which started in 1921. By some fat kid who went over to France and believed he was he was smart because he got some training over there in France. I'm not going to China anytime soon, so I don't think, I can say what I want. And look, we're celebrating 245 years of America, okay? But you got to understand, the Chinese Communist Party, even though it's 100 years old, the Chinese nation in itself is thousands of years old. Of course, with different revolutions and different dynasties and, and whatnot. And it's basically crash course in Chinese history. You have more revolutions than a Formula One car in low gear. That's sort of the reality of Chinese history. The fact of the matter is they also have a long memory, okay? And they're still not happy about the 100 years of humiliation, okay? Which is why the Chinese party is going ahead and doing this, okay? They put themselves number one, okay? So when people say that it's xenophobic to put your country first or whatever, they're not going to be saying the same thing when Chinese planes are, coming over Seattle, Red Dawn style, which I don't know what else will wake up, some of these people. And then you have the people on the other side of the crowd that says, we'll beat China in the war and we'll send everybody there. A, I don't want this country any more wars for now. And get us out, get everybody back, please. It's no more wars. And B, I really don't think so at this stage of the game. China is pushing ahead, far ahead. Where you have CC simps like Musk or Simp CP. Let me know in the comments below. What do you want to call them? You want to call them CC simps or Simp CPs? Let me know. What do you want to call people who praise China all over the place? Which it does get frustrating when you look at some of these YouTube videos and you see comments by these CC simps, or maybe we can call them CC simps, Chinese communist simps. That makes sense. Some of these CC simps that are going, oh, look at China, so great that it builds, rail infrastructure, and then they'll go ahead and snub the U.S. and like, oh, look at U.S. infrastructure falling apart. It just goes, China is good, and all that great. Yeah. Communist sympathizers. Yeah, CC simps. Yeah, we're going to call them CC simps. That's what we're going to call it on this channel. I'm probably not going to go to China anytime soon. Not that I want to. Nor, we have enough film here that we can go ahead and, then talk about. Because I do want to talk about how China made their high-speed rail system. Because it is important to talk about. Again, less to talk about, let's go ahead and copy. Because you have a lot of CC simps over here that think that we can just copy the same thing over here. No, that doesn't work. You also have to understand that China is, 98% Han Chinese? They're a homogenous country. The United States, not so much. And that's something that we've contended with for a long time, and we've been able to do well with it. But in the last several years, we've been falling apart at the seams. So we have to figure out a way to be able to make this through whatever happens to this country. And for us and for our people, we have to do it. Shock2957 with the super chat, man. Thank you. How about an update on rebuilding LA Union Station? It will help the whole Amtrak system. Yeah, and I think LA Union Station, didn't they host the Oscars just recently? So, I don't know. That could be something. That's the thing about our country. We do have a lot of older classical infrastructure. That you can't replace a lot of things like that. Like if you can't replace LA Union Station. It's like what they did to Penn Station. You cannot replace works of art like that. It's like saying, taking the Greek Parthenon and putting a McDonald's on top of it. That's sacrilege, and it's probably, a capital sin over murder. You probably shouldn't do things like that. But then you can't ride the Shanghai maglev. No, I'm fine. I'll ride the DSC maglev in Japan, thank you. And that's another thing, again, I'm not a simp for Japan either. The reason why I pushed the Japanese system so much is because A, they did it first, okay, and they have a lot of technology behind it. That's 2. 3, they're also a major ally of ours, okay. So it does help to have allies and friends to go ahead and do this, okay. It's not to say that it should only be the Japanese building over here. Far from it. The German systems, like we have Brightline with Siemens. okay, or the French, with Alstom that now is, doing the trains, the Avalia system for Amtrak. So there's a lot of competition and cooperation that we can do with other friendly nations, okay, and nations that we share a lot with, okay, because again, we do share a lot more with Germany and France in terms of people, culture, and with Spain too, in the UK and other nations like that, okay, yeah, we share a lot more genetically and a lot more with in terms of our culture with Europe than we do with Japan. Okay. However, Japan has a lot to offer for us in terms of their technology and what they can do with us as being allies. So that's what we have to put into context. Okay, and we have to realize that. Okay, because it's not going to stop. Because Tesla CEO praised the amazing economic prosperity of China has achieved. Remember that chart that I showed you, that 70% of Chinese millennials now own a home, whereas 40% of American millennials own a home. Okay, that's a major difference. Okay, and again, maybe Chinese homes are, maybe they're a box about, less than the size of my office over here. Okay, that could very well be something, but at least they have a place. Okay, and it's also showing that the government does care for Chinese people more than maybe the American government cares for Americans. Okay, as much as the Chinese government is guilty of so many crimes, of a lot of millions upon millions of deaths, at this current stage, the Chinese government cares more for their people than the American government cares more for its people. And that's been for a while. We need to be able to change the way things happen. Again, we cannot keep calling ourselves independents and things like NIMBYs. Okay? Because this is what ticks me off the most about NIMBYs. Not in my backyard. Notice how they call it, not in my backyard. So that's implying, or, the assumption that it could be done in somebody else's backyard, but as long as it's not in their backyard. Okay? You can't run a country that has everybody saying, not in my backyard. That's not a country. That's a collection of just random people that just want to be with each other. That's not a country. This is why we call it the American Rail Club, not the Backyard Rail Club. Okay, this is what we're going against, guys. This is what we're going against. Okay, you don't see parades like this in the United States anymore. We used to have it. A certain president wanted a giant military parade, but everybody got scared. That would have been cool. A certain other country went ahead and celebrated their parade, their victory parade, quite recently. Another country that we like to keep blaming for all our woes for some reason, even though half the roads are dirt roads. Yeah, we're talking about Russia. But look, this is what we're talking about. Okay. And again, what are we going to do in this nation? Not just for our own people. And of course, talking here about Afghanistan. And again, a lot of these wars where we're having our own people dying off and getting killed. There's a lot of stuff that we need to fix here in our own country before we start tackling the rest of the world. We have to go back to square one, okay? And this is the thing about China. They're not stopping. They're not gonna stop. This is the next one that they're talking about. Smarter Fuxing bullet trains to debut. So the Chinese Fuxing bullet trains with smarter facilities will begin operation. This is the one that started over in Tibet. So look at this. They just keep upgrading them. Okay. We can go ahead and complain and say, China stole the systems from Germany or China stole it from Japan or whatnot. Yeah, they went ahead, they reverse engineered it, and now they're making their own. And where's the United States? Okay? Where is the United States for our country? Where are they? Look at this. Look at this. This looks basically on par, close to on par with what the Japanese Shinkansens look like on the green class trains. Look at that. Yeah, they have... And these trains go a longer distance in some places like China. So some of these trains, they can go for 8 hours, like from Beijing to Shanghai. So that's why, some of these are kind of like they have rooms on the trains, which is something that we can do similar here in the United States. Japan doesn't have that because most of their trains, go between distances that are, 3 or 4 hours apart. So there's not really a need to sleep on the trains there in Japan. They do have sleepers, but they're not high-speed rail. Look at this. And this is the thing. We don't have anything in the market here for high-speed rail in terms of making our own high-speed rail. Now, of course, we have Siemens, which is the only company, and Alstom too. Alstom and Siemens, mostly Siemens now. They're making high-speed trains here in the United States, but we don't have like an American company that makes high-speed rail. So let's look at where the United States, where we've gone, because I was just watching because I haven't watched season 3 of the Grand Tour. In the first episode, they go in as James May, Richard Hammond, and Jeremy Clarkson. They go to Detroit to go ahead and drive 3 American muscle cars. The Dodge Challenger, the Mustang, and the Camaro. The super high horsepower versions of them. And Detroit looks like it's from a Fallout game. It looks awful, and everybody says that. Like, Detroit used to be, and this is the part that got me ticked off about Detroit. In 1960, Detroit used to be the richest city in the world. Okay, GDP per capita and GDP. Detroit used to be the richest city in the world, and now it is among the poorest. It looks like a Fallout expansion map. That's what Detroit looks like. It's awful. It's terrible. Imagine if we could open up manufacturing here, okay? Not just for steel, not just for building our infrastructure and for precast span, roads and bridges, but also for trains, for heavy equipment, not just the same heavy equipment that we've been doing, because there's a lot of heavy equipment manufacturers, like a certain one here in Indiana, that is moving a lot of their manufacturing over to China or over to India. Put it this way, they're moving it outside of the United States. Okay, do you think China is going to be moving their factories out of here? The only way they'll move it over here to the United States is to get through tariffs or to make it cheaper for them. But even when they do, they bring their own people here to work in the United States. If you saw that documentary, American Factory, with that Fuyao factory that they built over in Ohio, that used to be an old Ohio GM factory in Ohio, they just started bringing in Chinese workers. After the union deal, which they probably, I will definitely say, they definitely rigged that election for the union, for people voting for the union. It's not the only election that's been rigged, and certainly not, the only ones that's been rigged anywhere in history. But let's be honest, okay? If we could be able to have our own things over here, our own factories over here, with our own American workers, okay? Imagine all over the Midwest, there's a lot of closed down factories. If we could open those back up to build our own products, to build our own things, labor has an important spot for American morals and for the American family, okay? Just like how it used to be in the 1950s that you could work as an entry-level job in a GM factory, because there used to be, dozens of factories in Detroit. And some of these houses now, they were 4-bedroom houses, so Americans could have their own families and work a job and be able to be fulfilled. You don't have that anymore. You just don't have that. It is a problem. That's why we keep bringing about high-speed rail. That it's not, or rail in general. It's not just a get from point A to point B thing. It's an American moral. It's an American family. It's an American environment. It's an American economy. It's the American life, American health, everything in general is affected by that, okay? Of course, it's not just that, if we build high-speed rail all over the United States and we have streetcars everywhere that everything is saved, and no, that's definitely not what I'm saying. High-speed rail and transportation infrastructure in general is not a panacea, but it definitely is a step forward, a massive step forward in the right direction. And it has to be done together. It cannot be done independently. It has to be done together. All right? So let's get that all through our head. Chat line is slow for me today. Yeah, it's not sometimes like that. And YouTube is trying to retract some messages. So if you guys are seeing messages retract, that's not me. That's YouTube, because I'm trying to click as fast as I can here for show message. But it's not going. Look at these trains. Amtrak just recently went ahead and updated their they updated their interiors. But look at this. These are the new Chinese trains. Look at this. Of course, this is a CGI footage, something they did like in Cinema 4D or something like that, or whatever Chinese equivalent is it. But this is what they're doing. They're moving forward on this. Okay, and here back in our country, because again, there's a whole lot going on with labor right now in terms of trying to get people back to work. But because people, in reality, the $15 minimum wage, people have been talking about the $15 minimum wage for 15 years or so. At this point, it might as well be a $25 minimum wage. But because a lot of American companies, and they're free to, it's not to say that I want people in McDonald's to get a $15 minimum wage. People working in these jobs should be getting a wage in their area that's commensurate to be having, wherever stage of their life, okay? People working at McDonald's, it should be jobs for kids, right? Or for younger adults, okay? And then these younger adults should go on to either run the restaurant or go into a trade or having a blue-collar work. This is what having blue-collar work is so important here in this country, okay? Because we try to move everything into an office. That's a problem. You need to have a balance in that because we're very unbalanced here in this country in terms of work. But now look what they're doing. You want $15 million an hour. I don't. There's some jobs that pay that, but it's definitely not the peons here. It's definitely the CEOs and whatnot. They're not getting paid $15 million an hour. That's BS. They own probably like $15 million in assets. But it's not where people think that, Jeff Bezos, is worth $23 billion or whatever. No, it does not mean Jeff Bezos has $23 billion when he opens up his Chase account on his phone, okay? It means he owns $23 billion in assets, in stocks, or in investments, okay? It does not mean has $23 billion or Bill Gates has $50 million that he can go ahead and drop on a high-speed rail project. That's a very brainlet way of thinking, okay? But this is what happens. This is what happens when you don't value labor in your country. And this is why we are a corporatocracy, okay? I don't agree with Bernie Sanders on a lot of things, but he was absolutely 100% correct that we are a corporatocracy. He said that, I think, in the 90s or so. And, a lot of people, like some of my favorite comedian, like George Carlin, you got to listen to some of his stuff if you haven't. He's 100% right on a lot of this, too. It's a big club and you're not in it. This is the reality that we're in, folks. Okay? You're not going to see this happen in China. Okay? China would not allow its workers to be replaced by artificial intelligence unless they had a place for the workers to go. Okay? Again, it doesn't mean that China is all great and whatnot. I mean, heck, being in China, you got to be careful where you step on an escalator or else you get eaten. Because, again, there's not a lot in terms of safety in China because they're all, in it to move the whole country forward. But that's a whole different way in their culture of how they see human life. But this is what's going on. So just 10% of job seekers are urgently looking for openings, according to a recent survey conducted by hiring giant Indeed. So this is when they keep saying that the unemployment... This is the lie that a lot of people are going to keep talking to you about. Oh, the unemployment rate is decreasing. No, the unemployment rate is based on a messed up, jumbled up math that doesn't take into account people that aren't looking for work or people that are out of the workforce or people that are severely underemployed. I have so many friends that I know that have master's degrees or doctorate degrees that are working jobs that are paying them less than what I was getting in my last job with a bachelor's degree, or less than people that are, getting paid in, in blue collar work. And frankly, we do need more blue collar work in this country. So in reality, the unemployment rate is somewhere around the 20 to 30% unemployment. There's a website that I go to, it's called shadowstats.org, that has a lot better math. Let's put it that way. The maths are better on that website. So yeah, this is what you're going to keep seeing. So you keep asking McDonald's, I want $15 an hour. McDonald's going to say, great, goodbye. Here's screen number 1 and screen number 2. That's what's going to happen. China, what they're doing, because I know some people in the comments are saying, well, this is corporatism. What China is doing, there's elements of corporatism there. What corporatism is that there's what we have in the United States is more of a free market corporatocracy. Okay? Again, I'm trying to get out of politics, so I'm just trying to finish this quick. What China has is state-run economics that has elements of corporatism in which what the United States used to have, and which what corporatism is that you make it so that companies that are good for your nation, that are going to build infrastructure or build products that your the people from your nation can sell, have the opportunity to do so, right? So you're valuing both the company and the worker. Okay. Now again, there's a lot of political theory to it. There's a lot of countries that have done it, and they paid the price for it in some ways. But this is where we have to be able to bring in better ideas for a country, because it's not getting any better. So this was an article that was sent to me. The dream of Florida is dead. The Miami condo collapse is a crisis for the entire state. Now, I read through the article. It's more of an interview between a reporter and a building inspector. I do think the article is a little bit too it's too exaggerated. It's not to say that Florida is dead. Florida has a lot of issues. A lot of states have different issues, but definitely this, because the Champlain Towers, now it's coming out, and I didn't do this for a reason last week because. I didn't want to bring it up on the stream because I didn't think it was the right time to bring it up because the media was going crazy about it, and I wanted to focus on the rail. B, it wasn't quite sure of what happened there. I mean, heck, they had the IDF come in, the Israeli Defense Force come in. They came in from like an overnight flight or something like that. So I don't know what happened to that building, And of course, you have the conspiracies that were saying that it was blown up or whatever or whatnot. But it's now coming to light that the building, and it definitely is much more accurate right now. It wasn't kept up to code. They were ignoring the repairs that had to happen to the building, even to the point where you see this building over here, this other condo over here. Like one of these newer condos that always happens in Florida. We went to Florida the last time. Holly was asking me, is like, when are they ever going to finish building? Like, they don't ever stop. And I was like, never. They're never going to stop. And that's the thing about Florida, because you have a climate where you can build 100% of the year, unless there's hurricanes or anything like that. But when they were building this condo, the residents who were living over here felt like it was shaking. So, it was shaking the entire time. Not like an earthquake, but there was definitely problems here. Notably, the pool that had cracks underneath, where the way it was taking in water. Because you have to have sloped roofs in Florida, or roofs that have water run up, because there's a lot of rain in Florida. I mean, the whole ocean will pour over you when it rains sometimes over there. The drops of water are so big over there. I mean, when it rains over here in Indiana, it's like it pours for 2 minutes and then it stops. I'm like, that's it. That's it. That's your rain here. Florida is a whole big deal, man. But this is the problem. This is just what a lot of our callers have been saying before. This is just the start. This thing over here is just the start. There's a lot of other condos over here that is going to happen, and now this has been condemned to be, the whole thing is going to be taken down. And don't worry, 5 years from now, once that whole thing is gone, you'll see another one of these. You'll see this one right here, this condo right here. There'll be another one right there where it used to be. In 5 years, like if nothing even happened. I guarantee you that. This is the problem. We have to figure out a way, and we got to do it through our own municipalities. Building codes need to be kept up to date. We cannot just have things just be built and the building owners, or whoever owned the rights or titles to this, basically get away. It's going to be a major lawsuit after this. There is a big lawsuit, especially where this happened in Florida, in the area where this happened. The people who live there, they got some lawyers. I'll tell you that much. Lawyers with lots of syllables in their names that are going to come up out of this, and it's going to be a nasty lawsuit. I guarantee you that much. So, like what I'm saying, guys, And yeah, we gotta say about China. Yeah, we can make jokes about China, like they'll go ahead and build a building in 1 week and then it'll fall apart. But that's the thing. They do it to themselves, too. We do this and then we just let it go. So we're falling apart on infrastructure that is just old and we're not doing anything about it. Okay? Not that we're not doing anything about it. Is that we're doing a lot less than what we should be doing. That's the reality. That's the point. Grambo is saying conspiracy time. That's the same condo John McAfee stayed in when he claimed to have terabytes of data. No, that was a Photoshop. That's BS. That's not true. The thing that McAfee did, and like he killed himself in the prison. Give me a break. I'm just gonna go really quick over this because it's nothing to do with Rail. He put that out on the Ethereum blockchain or whatnot. There's no servers needed for that. That was just somebody went ahead and put out a photoshopped tweet on 4chan, and then it went out everywhere, and people gobbled it up. The same thing like the McCain report or whatever that the FBI took seriously that Trump was buying hookers in Russia and stuff like that. Again, same sort of thing. That's ridiculous. Should there be a rail line to Key West again? I don't think so. Look, it would be nice, but there's not that many people in Key West that there should be a rail line to Key West. Speaking of, let's have some Key Lime sparkling water because I'm almost done with this water. Let me just fill this up. Let's see what other comments come over here, and then we'll go on. We'll go on to the final bit of articles over here. It's 10:07. Actually, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, we'll leave it over here. We'll talk a little bit about California because we basically got over all our articles over here, and then that's it. So we'll do that, and then we'll have our last bit of callers on here. If anybody wants to join on Discord, go ahead and call in. Nothing better than water, I do gotta say. Anytime you go to a restaurant, guys, you should just order water. Water with lemon. That's a life hack. Stop drinking soda. It's bad for you. Not that I should be saying anything because I'm having a milkshake, but hey, it's I don't have milkshakes all the time either. I do not think there should be a rail line to Key West. It's funny because Key West actually used to be, more than 100 years ago, used to be the most populous city in Florida. But afterwards, you can't. There's not enough space in Key West. I mean, it's 4 miles long. It's not that you don't have enough space. Also, the population in Key West has been decreasing. And my fiance Holly is from the Keys. She's from Key Largo. But she said, if you're too crazy, you go to Florida. If you're crazy enough, you go to the Keys. If you're too crazy for anywhere else in Florida or in the Keys, you go to Key West. So it's not. Man, I don't think a lot of people don't want to go to Key West, man. Chamiso, you speak the truth, man. I bet once Texas has their system running, every other state is going to be envious. Yeah, I mean, look. I mean, even Democrat senators and representatives on May's call were envious about Brightline, and they wanted something for their state. They wanted something in Nevada. They wanted something in Chicago. Both Republicans and Democrats. Okay, the thing is, here in this country, we need we're very much lost touch with a lot of faith and metaphysical. So we have to see things to believe them here in this country because we've lost a lot of touch in God here in this country. That's another thing. Again, I'm not gonna go into religion here. You guys know I'm pretty Catholic, but that's the thing in general about America that we've lost touch of. We used to be more about what we could do, right? Things like manifest destiny, other ideas like that of America, about things that this country could do. Now we're only looking at the just what we see in front of us. That's very much the opposite of what this country used to be. Okay? Man with beard and patriotic clothes says, stop drinking soda. Yes. Yes. Stop drinking soda. I mean, look, if you guys want to, build railroads and blue collar jobs, man, you can't be out of shape. Okay? And for somebody who's like, I'm full natty. I'm, 100%. I don't use any drugs or anything like that, period. And I can bench easily, one rep for, about close to 300 pounds in a bench. But, we gotta be healthier too. This country's gone terrible when it comes to health. So let's look at this again. This is sort of similar to the last Amtrak map. The last map that we were talking about having service to other places in the country. Let's scroll down. Really, the interesting point here is the maps. So let's look in Atlanta. So some people were talking about, bright lines should terminate in Atlanta or something like that. I did see that comment. Don't worry, I try to see as many comments as I can. I can't, get to everybody. But since the chat is slower today, I can get to a lot more people. Let's see, one more comment. Too many are employed to stamp the paperwork and no people are swinging the pickaxe. Absolutely true, Wizen Variations 1. Absolutely true. Okay, so a hub for the Southeast in Atlanta. Okay, Atlanta is currently served by the only one Amtrak route, stopping once a day in each direction. The proposal would make Georgia's capital a major regional rail hub with new routes to Nashville, Montgomery, Alabama, and Savannah, Georgia. I've been to Savannah several times. I love Savannah, Georgia. And additional trains to Charlotte and Birmingham. So let's look here in the South. And the Sun Belt of America has been growing too. Definitely the regions that have been growing more have been the Sun Belt, the Midwest. A lot of people are leaving California because of the issues over there, and people have been leaving the Northeast. So you're seeing a lot of people from the Northeast, either moving south or moving to the Midwest, or a lot of people from California either moving, south or to Texas or to the Midwest. I feel sorry for anybody who has to live next to California. Some of them are good, like hello, it's hello, or our usual caller over here. Some Californians are good. So look at this, where Atlanta would be a hub. You got Greenville, South Carolina, Columbia, Charleston, all in there. And Charleston could be connected, to Savannah later on, which it probably should be, or either having like another rail line to Charleston, Columbia, Greenville. And then Charlotte, okay? A lot of people have been talking about this Charlotte to Atlanta line, okay? I definitely, have been saying, and when I've talked to Brightline, they kept mentioning Atlanta to Charlotte. So there definitely could be, in the future, a Brightline plan that could connect Charlotte to Atlanta. Because that's definitely something that could happen. Birmingham's been a city very much like Detroit. It's been falling apart at the seams, and people have been leaving Birmingham, Alabama. It's sad. It used to be like they called Birmingham, I think, the Pittsburgh of the South, because there used to be a lot of steel production and manufacturing in Birmingham. It's terrible what's happened to that city too. And here we are, the Midwest. Again, here's the thing about the Midwest. You see here, like in the South, there's cities, but, they're not as close as they are in as many numerous cities here, American cities here in the Midwest. Clusters of city that are so close, very similar to the Northeast. But in terms of the Midwest, it's a very circular area. It's not, straight shot like the Northeast. So you have a lot of spoken hubs, a spoken hub system that can be done. And very much the hub is going to be Chicago. There's no doubt about that. And you'll have like some secondary hubs like Indianapolis, good old Indy over here, which again used to have. It was the state, the area where they had the first Union Station in the world was in Indianapolis. You have Cleveland over here, which could very much be another hub or another little hub in this spoken hub system. You have like St. Paul, Minneapolis. That could be over to the Pacific Northwest. So there's places over here, okay, and then of course Texas, okay, because Texas in itself, Texas is massive, okay. Texas is about the size of Western Europe, okay. It's big. This map it definitely doesn't make it to scale because it makes Oklahoma look like it's the size of Texas. That's not. That is not. That's definitely not. And I've been to Oklahoma. Look who pushed open the door. If you guys want to know who pushed open the door, it's this little guy over here. Our little resident lawn boy. Here we are. So, funny little tidbit. These little dachshunds over here. Back in World War One, they were pretty persecuted because they were German dogs. Unfortunately, a lot of them were being either beaten in the streets or something like that. Terrible, because dachshunds used to be very. They still are now very popular in terms of dogs here in the United States. But they started calling them Liberty dogs or something like that to sort of change the image and make them more of like an American dog, which a lot of Germans who came over here in the United States very much took to the American identity. Isn't that right, Mr. Bobo? That's right. You are true red, white, and blue. That's right. Yeah, the dogs are losing their complete coconuts because of all the fireworks going on outside, and now they're in my room. Okay, I know. And this is Leia over here. This one over here, the black one. I can't really. Let me see if I can bring her up a little bit. Oh, this is the other dog that you see over here. Okay, she doesn't like being carried, so I'm gonna put her down. Okay, she's a bit of a scaredy cat, but whenever I go hiking, she's the dog that just runs with me all the time. So she's very much a tomboy. All right, y'all get out now. Okay. Oh God. Okay, fine. You can all stay here. Jeez, dogs. Jeez. Okay. I don't know. I'm not a dog dad. No, absolutely not. I hate people when they do that. I'm a dog mom or I'm a dog dad. No, dogs are dogs. Okay, they're not kids. People gotta stop doing that. You gotta respect them for what they are. That's what you gotta do. Liberty dog to freedom fries. Yeah, freedom fries indeed. I honestly wish that Amtrak would possibly update their stations. Like, for example, there's a station in New Haven, Connecticut. Yeah, there's a reason why people, there's Amshacks. Okay, there are literal shacks that are Amtrak stations that they call Amshacks. Now, they've gotten rid of a lot of them, or have at least tried to. But yeah, there's a lot that can be done through Amtrak that they can do to help their image. Which is why Brightline doesn't really want that much to do with Amtrak, because it's more of an image problem. Brightline wants to market itself as the future of rail in this country, whereas Amtrak represents to most people as that train company. That's what it looks like here to most people in the United States. That's just the reality. That's not going to change. I'm sorry for the Amtrak fans that, they love Amtrak and whatnot. Unfortunately, most Americans are not that, fond of Amtrak. They will take Amtrak, but they say a lot more can be done. So let's look at this again. Look at the American Southwest. Los Angeles, San Diego. Again, Los Angeles and San Diego and Amtrak is one of the top 5 city pairs that Amtrak takes the most amount of people, which is why I said that California High-Speed Rail should have started there. Argos here with the super chat. Thank you, Argos. Brightline works because FEC owns the track. Imagine if CSX or BNSF had the same idea. Exactly. So if something like this were to work through FEC, imagine what other freight railroad companies can do. Because the freight railroad companies used to own passenger rails. In fact, there were some times in history where the FEC stopped freight trains for a while in the 1920s because so many people were going into Florida, so they were only running passenger trains for a time in the 1920s. That's how good passenger rail was in the country. And again, the 1920s, the automobile was in vogue pretty well. A lot of people did own automobiles back in the 1920s. Okay, not as much as we do today, but the automobile was pretty inexpensive. So this is, again, we've had a balance. Okay, it really did start after World War II. Really, the decline there. So yeah, and look at places like Columbus, Ohio. Okay, a very central area in Ohio that hasn't had trains in a long time. So, it's fine. Yeah, here, look. An example of a good boomer. Stu Nicholson, Executive Director of All Aboard Ohio, near a railroad track in Columbus, Ohio on June 2nd. Okay, so there's people over in a lot of places that want to bring, back trains. I'll see if I can get in contact with some of these guys. I know I've been saying that I've dropped the ball on getting in contact with a lot of people, so I'm trying to see get something with Texas first, because I know you guys want to do that, and also with Brightline. Yeah. And I've been over here, the Susquehanna River Bridge. This is over. I've taken footage of this because we went to Havre de Grace in Maryland. And look, this bridge is over 100 years old. And it's taking trains like the Acela and the Avalia that are brand new. So you got to say something about our country, okay? And Ruben has said this plenty of times as well. We were able to build infrastructure 100 years ago that has still lasted, okay? We didn't have computers, okay? These were all built and drawn on paper, with protractors and compasses and old school math. Okay, well, it's still the same math that we're using, but they didn't have any computers, they didn't have any calculators, and they just did it. And look at this, it's still standing. It's still standing. So that's insane. It's just it's still there. All right, so let's finish this off. We talked a little bit about California. That now there's and this is the issue that we're coming into. Okay, we talked a little bit about this earlier, so I'm gonna end this up with California, and then we'll see who's on call, and then we'll end it there and call it a night, so you guys can get some rest and enjoy the 4th of July tomorrow. Okay, so California, the legislatures passed a budget that had no money for the California High-Speed Rail Authority. And the California High-Speed Rail Authority was asking for $4 billion within a $262.6 billion budget. They could not spare $4 billion for the project. Okay? And what's the reason why? And this is both Democrats and Republicans, okay, that are not pushing this through. Okay? One of the reasons why is because, again, we said in this article, there's a lot of politicians in this area. Hey, calm down. It's okay. They're losing their coconuts over the fireworks, so just mind the dogs. I'm sorry, guys. It's what it is, And I don't like doping up the dogs either. I don't think you should be doping up the dogs either to calm them out or whatever. But here's the reason why. LA politicians should try to kill California's bullet train. Okay? So why are politicians in these areas not doing good with this or not on board with this, okay? It's because they have projects of their own that they want to push as well, okay? Which is nothing wrong with pushing their own projects. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But definitely a lot of people in LA and San Diego, especially the politicians there, do feel snubbed. And they've been upset at the amount of time that it's taken the California High-Speed Rail Authority to start getting its stuff in gear. And now they want to push their own projects. So they want to take some of the money and integrate it into other projects here as well. So like I said, look at here at San Diego, okay? So San Diego has its own transit project and its own corridor that they want to do and have that done. Which, of course, there's nothing wrong with that, right? So, again, these are all articles over here. So this started on June 29th, the first Siemens Mobility. And Siemens is doing a lot of stuff here in this country. Speaking of Germans, there you are, Siemens, okay? S700 light rail vehicle was launched on the line, signifying the start of train testing and the transfer responsibility from the San Diego Association of Governments, SANDAG, to operator San Diego Metropolitan Transit System, or MTS. Okay, so this is a $2.1 billion 11-mile extension of the San Diego Blue Line. Okay, again, $2.1 billion for 11 miles. Let's calculate that out, because that's... This is the problem here in this country. We spend a lot per mile than any other country in the world for rail, right? So let's go ahead. Put in $2.1 billion, okay? You divide that by 11 so you guys can see, okay? That's over $190 million per mile. $190 million. You know what they spend in France in France, where they have their own their own light rail systems and whatever. You know how much they spend per mile in France for a similar type of system? Close to 15 million per mile. Close to 15 million per mile. And we're spending close to over 12 times the cost. This is the problem I'm talking about here in America. This is an issue. We cannot be spending $190 million per mile for these sort of projects. It needs to be toned down. And there needs to be some sort of regulation that looks at where other countries have done and saying, okay, you want to build this, try to get as close to this number as possible. If you're way over this number, there's something wrong. There's something terribly wrong. Why projects are being spent like this. And I put this out in a video that I did years ago. Why are American rail projects so expensive? Okay? A lot of it has to do with a lot of government waste. Okay? A lot of it going to studies, or a lot of it going to advisors, or other things that are not related to the building of the project itself, or to union costs and dues, which don't even actually go to the worker. Okay? Because a lot of unions now are not, they're not the same as they used to be before. Okay? A lot has changed in this country. But there's a lot that can be done. A lot that can be done. Okay? Now, the new EIS study got released. This is sort of what we were talking about earlier for California. Released for board approval this summer. The final environmental impact report. Okay? Once they get that report done and approved, they'll finally be able to go ahead and start building the actual rail infrastructure instead of just, viaducts and concrete bridges. Okay? Because I know a lot of you guys are upset of just seeing just concrete bridges, or the California Concrete Bridge Authority. I've heard that online too. Or the Viaduct Authority. We're getting there in California. So it's happening. Okay? Again, this is the problem that can be rectified through better planning. That's sort of what we need. Better priorities and better planning. All right. So let's check who we have here in the audience. We have David Mitchell on here. We'll bring him back for 5 minutes. Then we'll check out the comments over here, and we'll call it a night.
I'm back.
Hey, Dave. Welcome back.
Dude, you're right, Like, I'll be honest. Like, I think what happened in Florida was probably a wake-up call,
Yeah. I definitely think so. And look, I'm born Florida man, born and raised. One of the reasons why I just can't, why I left there is that the culture there in Florida, you have a lot of people from Florida that are not from Florida. And they sort of take advantage of that, and they do stuff like this, which hurts everybody there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the type of thinking in this country that is detrimental to everyone. And we have to be able to figure out a way to get responsibility and have people take responsibility for the actions that they cause, and be able to look at it in a perspective of what's going to help our country.
That's true. And what I said earlier about what I see in the next 10 years, like, it may be a wake-up call, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. Like, you remember when they shut down that bridge back over a month ago because of a bridge beam?
Yeah.
Crash?
Yeah.
That right there was another sign. Like, our road infrastructure is going pretty downhill pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee next thing to go is probably a bridge or a road,
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at what cybersecurity, what happened with the Continental Pipeline. And that has more to do, that has less to do with physical infrastructure, and probably more to do with somebody there in the company that got an email that said, hello, sir, here is email for, put in password here, and your mother's maiden name. And they went ahead and clicked it, and, And that's where stuff happens. Because 70% of hacks in companies come from the inside or from somebody being really dumb when it comes to data loss prevention. And again, that whole company shut down the pipeline. What shut down was the accounting section of their internet infrastructure or their system, not the actual pipeline itself. So the company didn't want to say, oh, we don't want to give all this gas now and not collect money on it. We don't have another system behind it, so we're going to shut down the whole thing. You know, that's out of greed. Basically, they shut it down practically.
And this is why we need to get. This is why government need to get a handle on some of these companies. You know.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because it's very much lopsided to the point. And I've worked with lobbyists. I've seen it happen. You have this revolving door where somebody working in a company will go ahead and work for a government agency and then go back to working for a company, or somebody that works inside.
Our infrastructure is being screwed up over free, you know?
Yeah.
Like, in our economy, you know? Like, it all began between the 70s and 80s, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It really, your decline started. I would say the mid '60s, and it just went from there. In terms of that, rail infrastructure started declining after World War II, but in totality and total, you have this sort of big decline start in the heyday of the '60s, and then it really started to come down from there.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right on that.
Yeah, because, and you're saying, most of the people who are people who were born during like in the 40s, like the people who caused all this were born in the 40s, you know?
Yeah.
Between the 30s and 40s, when the boomers were born, you know?
Oh, the boomers were born. It's not. So they say the boomer generation is from 1945 to 1965. That's the boomer generation. Yep. And then from like 65 to 80 as Gen X, 81 to 95 as millennials, and it goes on from there.
My wife is a millennial, and I was born in 1998, so I'm a G.
Yeah, so you're Gen Z, yeah.
But I'll be honest, like, the boomers really screwed it up for us.
Yeah, I wouldn't. You gotta understand that, like, it's I've said it before. We can't place all the blame on the boomers. Like, the whole decline happened on their watch, and nothing much was done to really alleviate it.
And they raked in all the money that they can, and screw it over everybody else.
Yeah. But speaking of corruption, I did want to bring up something real quick for you and the audience. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the crash that happened in China several years ago. Like 10 years ago. The high-speed rail crash over there.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what happened over with the Chinese rail crash. Very similar to what happened with in Florida. Where there was a lot of corruption in which the systems weren't created properly, and it created this crash. Okay, so what do you think they did with the former director who was in charge of CRH when that crash happened?
They probably killed him,
They did.
They probably did.
They did. They sentenced him to death. Li Zhizhong, China's ex-railway minister, sentenced this. They're not kidding. We're not going to do something like that for what happened over here. And 135 people are probably going to be dead here. Not 35, 100. No, probably close to like 140 or something like that. Whoever they say is missing is probably dead at this point. That's a sober, sad reality. Yeah, they're dead at this point. There's no way a human being at this point. Very few cases, minuscule cases, can survive being toppled without any water. After 3 days without water, you're done. Basically. And they've been there for a week. Okay. This is and look, this is the difference. There you go. This is the difference of what we do in this country. It has to take a lengthy lawsuit to happen, And here, this is what they do in China. Now, should we do something like this in the United States and China? I'm not advocating for something like this to happen in the United States, but we need to put a heck of a lot more responsibility on people who do things like this. That's what's real.
Heck, and most of the people who do this, they should be in jail. Like,
yes,
you remember Deepwater Horizon's disaster?
Yeah, a lot of people should be in jail. There's a lot more people that should be in jail right now. That not regular citizens. A lot of politicians should be in jail. And this is the thing, you know. And look, of course, I wasn't hiding this or anything like that. That I voted for Trump, but I started letting go on him because, you know, a lot of people are saying that they wanted Hillary Clinton in prison. Okay, whether anybody on you or anybody else agrees with that or not. Okay, what it represents is that politicians are going to be responsible for their actions. Now, that never happened, because if that happens, a whole lot of other people after Hillary would either be sentenced to or trialed, or a lot of politicians would go, you know, to prison. And that's something in this country that's not going to happen, because there's, you know, sort of an underwritten rule that, you know, you watch out for the other guy, because, you know, even though he's on the other party, you don't want him to get in trouble, because then the whole thing ravels about. Okay, and this has happened. Now, I think one of the representatives from Florida or something, who was caught for you know, for having sex with underage kids. So, you know, it's stuff like this that we need to have more of a grip on. It needs to be responsibility needs to be taken by us on the people. Okay, because that's the thing, we've dropped the ball on this, and we think that the system's going to fix it.
Like, if you remember the Deepwater Horizon disaster back in 2010, over a decade ago, the people who caused that, they're not in jail, you know?
They're not in jail. The people who, you know, helped cause the crash in 2008, they're not in jail. You know, and again, a lot of what happens in China is a lot of political theater, and at this time, in, you know, the early 2010s, Xi Jinping, you know, was solidifying his power, and he was getting rid of another faction within the party. But it still showed to people there in China that if you do something that is against the party or against the people, you're going to be in trouble for it. And we don't have something like that in this country, that if you do something against American citizens, you won't be in trouble for it. I mean, like, look at, you know, Big Pharma and a whole bunch of other industries. And like you said, the oil and gas industry can go ahead and, you know, they'll pay pennies on the dollars, and they'll still just keep, you know, for restitution, and they'll just keep doing it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, heck, some of the companies who take their business over to China and Africa, some of them need to be penalized.
Yeah.
They need that one thing, because if we don't start penalizing them, our country will become a third world country.
Yeah, if it's not there already, that's sort of the problem. And I say this to people, you know, what's going on in Africa, what the Chinese party is, or what the Chinese are doing in Africa, is very much colonialism. That's there's no, you know, doubt about that, what they're doing there. Mm-hmm. The thing is, what they do with their rail systems is that they put a lot of these countries into debt, and then into debt that they can't pay. And it's obvious, like, they'll go ahead and they'll sign away, you know. It's like going ahead and buying a $20,000 car for like 50% APR. No joke. And you'll end up, you know, owing a car that's $20,000 will end up being, you know, $40,000 within 10 years, and something you can't pay off for. So a lot of these countries go into debt for a lot of these, which is basically what the Belt and Road Initiative is, through China. Mm-hmm. It's a debt initiative to bring a lot of countries under debt. And, you know, same things that happen like in places like Ecuador, where, you know, for a project there in that country, they went into debt, and they said, well, we'll take, you know, if you can't pay that, we'll take your rainforest as restitution. We'll take your timber, and then that causes an environmental problem. Okay, mm-hmm. The same thing happens in Africa, where, you know, places like in Kenya, well, they'll go ahead and, you know, ask for the Chinese and, you know, pay off or sign off for a loan, which they'll never pay off. They'll go ahead and go back to the Chinese and say, we can't pay off this loan. And the Chinese are like, no, it's okay. We'll just take all your oil. That's okay.
And also, there are reasons why they get to, in the same country going to debt, they get to put military bases in those countries.
Yeah, that's another thing that they do too. Like they did, I believe in Djibouti, or one of those countries. I'm pretty sure it was Djibouti. That they went ahead and built military base where they started shining lasers into our airmen and pilots' eyes. It's an environmental issue. It's a geopolitical issue. It's an issue on all sides. It's time for us to start taking responsibility, because believing and pushing for a system that is keeping us in this state is not working. We have to do better.
And here, James, the Chinese government knows it, and they're actually prolonging it and making our country not realize it.
Yeah, and there used to be a point in time, this was when I was back in college, as a business major. And people were saying, "Oh, we can't. If we get rid of our business in China, it will hurt them too, and it will hurt us as the same way. Because pulling the rug on us is about as bad as pulling the rug on China, and we're pulling the rug on ourselves." And I was like, "It's not going to get to that point anytime, soon. China's going to be able to be independent from us, and it's better to rip off the Band-Aid now than before it's too late." It's too late now.
Exactly.
It's too late now to do that. They've gotten themselves to be independent. We made fun of them for making cheap stuff in Walmart, and now they have their whole country connected by bullet trains, and they're sending rockets to Mars, and they'll probably colonize, the moon or eat whatever, they'll. There's like a Chinese thing that they, think that there's rabbits on the moon. That's more of an Asian thing. They'll eat all the rabbits on the moon, and there'll be, COVID 53 or something, because they started eating the rabbits. I can't hear you.
Do you know what our country that China helping building railroads in?
What?
Cuba.
Yeah. It's
Cuba.
true.
Well, China helping rebuild the railroads in Cuba, and I guarantee one Cuba going to that.
Yeah,
China will put a military base on Cuba, pointing probably toward Florida and the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, no, they still had that. When my dad was still in Cuba, they had missile silos already being built there by the Soviets even before they went ahead and said it out loud that they were allied with the Russians. So those nukes are still there. I guarantee you that. Cuba is a whole mess of its own. That country is far and gone. But yeah, there's a lot of Chinese cars in Cuba.
I know, and here, Jane, why people don't realize it, one, because Cuba already in debt, and because the railroad are going to put them in more debt, you'll give the Chinese an excuse to put a military base right on U.S. doorsteps,
Yeah.
So if we ever get them pissed off, they can attack us straight from Cuba.
Yeah, I mean you're absolutely right at that. It could be another Cuban Missile Crisis all over again, but instead of Russian missiles, it's Chinese missiles, and those missiles are gonna go a heck of a lot longer than the old Russian ones.
And here, Jane, the Gulf Coast is our weak spot. Most people don't think about it, but the Gulf Coast is the weak spot.
Yeah, definitely. I will say that it's a soft underbelly of the United States.
Like, just think about from Civil War, that when we did the Anaconda to speed the South,
Yeah. There was a lot of the naval battles that happened in the Civil War. It happened, down in the Gulf Coast, the blockades.
And a lot of ships was sunk in the Gulf from German U-boats, you know?
Yeah.
Just think about that.
Yeah, and off the coast of Florida, and especially on the Gulf Coast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for... Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to go on to the next caller, but I thank you for coming on again, David. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Yeah, there's a lot that needs to be done over here, and there needs to be more responsibility taken, and we need to be the ones. pushing that
Before
responsibility.
I go, I will just remind you too, Cuba do have some old U.S. locomotives that they still uses on.
Yeah, they're still there because Cuba used to have a lot more American influence before. I mean, after the United States, Cuba had the color TV. Basically after the United States, it was doing very very well back in the 1950s. I mean, you see videos of Cuba in the 1950s, and it looks like basically future Miami. It's insane.
What thing is, they still have some old alcoves in Cuba, like old alcoves.
Yeah.
And some old team engines from the island of Hawaii that were transferred to some of the plantations in Cuba.
Yeah.
Like some of the steam locomotives are actually from Hawaii.
Yeah.
And nut. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man.
You're welcome.
All right. Have a good night.
Hey, can I shout out to my YouTube channel real quick?
I'm sorry? Okay. All right. So, if there's anybody else in the audience that wants to come on, be sure to, request to come on board, and we'll do that. You have to raise your hand there in the audience. All right. Until then, there we go. Okay. So, Aegis will be the last caller for tonight, and then we'll call it a night, because I see you guys are starting to get a little tired. And I apologize that the stream has gone a little longer and we started a little late tonight, but, it's a special night. Hello, Aegis, you're on board.
Hey.
How's it going, man?
Always outstanding as usual.
All right.
So, still working on that article, but I'm in the minority discussing like the previous discussion about what China is that I think that China's still going to rise. It's not going to be under Communist Party anymore.
There could be, because I know there are some people that are trying to go ahead and bring another party there or try to take over or depose of the CCP. I don't see that happening anywhere in the next, at least in the next 25 years or so. There has to be a major...
yeah, that's the same thing I'm saying. It's going to be 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years from now, it's 2040s.
There has to be a major economic malfunction or something terrible to happen in China in which that would happen.
There's a couple trigger points. COVID, in my opinion, was probably the closest it came to, but China surprisingly did well.
As they say.
As they say, but there's but if there's any made things like unmarked cases, like we still don't know how much their COVID rate is. Like their numbers are pretty shady.
Yeah, I do not think at all that there was just 3,000 people that died, and they just stopped counting it one day and they said, "Oh, no more people died from COVID. That's it. Don't shut up, Lao Wai. There's nobody died from COVID. That's it. China glorious." That's it.
Yeah, that's ironic because U.S. despite what crap is going on right now, it's that we're still in a good position. It's just that we might not be. I think we're going to be in China's going to feel like it's unstoppable for the next 5 to 10 years, but. Jinping's rise, he still hasn't cleaned out the closet in terms of backstabbing and intra-party stuff.
Oh yeah,
that's still,
and there's a lot of that, Politburo politics that can go ahead and mess up a lot of things, which is similar to what happened in the Soviet Union. I mean, under Stalin, a lot of that happened, and then afterwards under Khrushchev, yeah,
and the rest of the 1 year 1980s people,
yeah,
the 80s.
But it's the thing is that in our country, our politics is basically we're hanging our dirty laundry out to the world, so everybody knows of our internal struggles here.
The Republican Party isn't mild to approaching severe partisan collapse.
Yeah,
their base cannot take a look at what the Republican Party is. There's the pro-Trump faction, the anti-Trump faction, and at the same time, their ideologies don't mix well together.
Yeah, there's a lot of that within the Democrat Party as well. Not as let's put it this way. They do a lot better for job. Yeah.
Listen, hear me out. They might be going for partisan collapse, but I do feel like they're like in the next 20 to 40 years, both the U.S. and China are going to experience major shakeups in terms of how politics will be done in those countries. Like I don't think we're going to be sticking to the two-party system anymore.
Oh, I don't think so either, and I think that's a good thing. I think the two-party dichotomy is ruining a lot of American politics because we're not honest. It's like that.
Generally, it's the same thing. Like it's the same thing that happened in Jamaica in the 1970s.
That's a whole different scenario.
It's a whole different scenario, but it's eerily similar. All parties were going through severe partisan collapse back in the prior decade. Like that's what happens like in a two-party system. Like partisan collapse is generally when a political party has two factions that cannot sustain themselves.
Right.
Else to go any further, and what happens is it creates discourse within the party, and it spreads throughout the entire party. And then what happens is that this often leads to increased violence, like not only in their own party, but the entire country as a whole, and potentially somewhat destabilizes it, but slightly or severely, but it causes because in a multi-party system, this rarely even happens.
Yeah, I do agree, and in the current terms of and the context of infrastructure, there very well could be a right-wing party that is, I would say probably more right-wing than the Republicans are right now, but they're pro-rail. And there could definitely be a left-wing party, Democrat Party, because like you were saying, like the Republican Party is very much on the verge of splitting apart. The Democrats themselves have different factions within their own party. However, they do a better job of trying to keep themselves together, or try not to air that out more on there. But there will definitely be factions where let's say there's different party systems like in a European parliamentary style system or in Japan.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen here.
Yeah, where you'll have some things where the right wing and the left wing, or very far right or far left, will agree on things like infrastructure, and then maybe have their own bills or stuff like that, and coalitions between.
Hear me out.
Sure. Ahead.
So, in the terms of the two-party system, this can't happen because all the parties are essentially just jumbled up together, and they have to either means that they only have to get specific majorities in certain localities in order to make sure their agenda succeeds.
Right. Unless they don't get funding, they don't get their lobbyists or their political PACs.
Yes. What? Sorry for a moment.
No worries. All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and close it up here, but I appreciate you coming on, Aegis.
Well, no worries. No, don't mind.
All right.
That's false alarm.
That's okay. All right. Well, we're gonna call it. Yeah, we're gonna start calling it a night here because it's almost 11 o'clock. So it's a longer stream than I wanted to.
11 o'clock. I'm still busy with other stuff like that, but anyway.
Yeah. No worries, man.
I'm kind of in the minority of saying that China is not going to survive like in its current state in the next at least 20 years.
Yeah, I definitely say, yeah, I agree with you in the sense that something big will happen in China in the next 20 years. I'm not quite sure whether they'll break up or split apart in between. Because, again, you have places like Tibet and, I say Tibet Autonomous Region.
Tibet's easily going to start doing stuff like,
yeah.
I see, like, Hong Kong, like, it might just form up its own, like, it might be too much for the Chinese to handle. It's like Xi to handle. Like, Jinping, he had a rough, like, to be honest with you, he had a very rough life. Like prior to him going over to being a college.
Oh yeah, his father was turned into a pariah under Mao until Deng Xiaoping came into power and brought him back over, and then
And that's why he's also defensive, is because he doesn't want the same crap to happen to him like his father.
Oh yeah, he understands how the party how it goes. He understands it because he lived through it. I mean, he went to like a work camp for a little bit. Xi Jinping. while his father was out of the party. So it's there's a lot that can happen, but again, I'm trying to bring this up, like wrap it back into infrastructure. Is that we have to be able to contend and have our infrastructure here and have our ducks in a row, because whatever happens, at least we have something physical that we can build back upon or come back to.
Build back better.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's why, in my opinion, at the current state of our political climate, it's far easier to get like private projects in than say anything public.
Oh yeah, that's why I say. I mean, I don't even try to. The only time I listen to whatever happens in federal politics, is when stuff like California or Brightline or whatever are involved with it. But a lot more is going to happen at a local level. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's less of a partisan circus.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Well, maybe unless the nuttiness starts creeping in via, what's like Proud Boys, this.
That's not going to be that much of an issue. In terms of infrastructure, like things like NIMBYs, that's going to start going off by the wayside.
That generation's not. That movement's dying out, but faster than the day is.
Yeah. So I mean, that's something that will go out. Anyway, I appreciate you coming on board, man.
Of course, I'll be here. When's the next week's stream? Do we have a plan for next week's stream?
Same day, same time, if everything goes according to plan.
All right. In that case, have a happy Treason Day.
Happy Independence Day. Take care, man. Alrighty. So that ends it here for the call. Let's go ahead and go through some of the comments and then call it a night. Informative stream as always. Thank you, Just a Hillbilly. How should a third party enter the U.S. Representative House? The problem is winner takes all. Yeah, that's kind of the problem. Unless you have somebody who goes as a Republican and then switches parties. Again, that's the problem, is that all the funding is through either the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. It's going to be near impossible, if not impossible, to win any as, like, let's say a Libertarian or Green Party or whatever, an American First Party, whatever party you want to come up with. It's going to be next to impossible to win because you have no funding behind you. And no business or super PAC is going to fund you. That's the thing. Carmenalo, Demetrius Villa for president. I appreciate the offer, but I don't think I'm going to nothing's going to get done as president. I appreciate it. I probably could do a heck of a lot of a better job, but I mean, hey, that's a whole different bucket of worms. Maybe emperor. COVID-53, laughed my ass off. Yeah, we're already on to the Delta variant, so it's COVID-21 already, I guess, at this point, right? That track diplomacy, yeah. I'm proud to still consider myself a cold warrior. I don't know what a cold warrior in what context that means, but I'm glad that you still found yourself proud. Yeah, true. That is what communism does. If the Boeing executives aren't in jail after the 737 MAX crashes, the Florida politicians have nothing to worry about. Yeah, it is true. And again, with what's happening over here in Florida, I don't doubt that nobody's going to go to jail for this. There'll be a lawsuit. A lot of money will be moved, but no one's going to pay the price. Gramble, the system failed us, and it sucks. Yeah, but let's end it on a good note, guys. Okay, we do have. Okay, there is hope. There is hope. There are things getting done, like in Texas, like in Florida, and of course, like in California. Okay. Things are getting done. We have to, and it's the thing, we can keep complaining about the things that are bad or start taking responsibility, okay? What we need to do is start getting on board also these Department of Transportation meetings, okay? Stick to local politics, start being more involved in our communities, and make sure that we're all connected up to rail. That's what we need to do. Let's just stick with us what we got over here, and we can be able to do it. And one day connect us all together. Last question. What makes sense between cities like Denver and Kansas City? Coach, train, or plane? Denver and Kansas City are, they're about like 700 miles apart or so. Having a mixture of both maybe train and plane would probably help. I mean, at this moment, probably most people are taking a plane to Denver and Kansas City. Again, I'll have to look at that better. All right, folks, we're going to end it right there. I apologize for the late start and the late stream, but hey, it's the 4th of July, so hopefully you all can go get some rest. Enjoy the fireworks tomorrow or tonight and tomorrow like we're doing over here in Indy, but it's just what it is. All right, thank you all for coming on board this wild American ride, and we will see you on board next time. Take care. God bless you. God bless America. Take care.